What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 373. Don't know why my camera did that. That's weird. Under the cover. And yeah, we got some stuff to talk about. I am just, man, this has been a week. This has been a week. Glad to have you guys here, though. This is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We get together and we watch the crazy things that are happening around the world. And at this point, there's just so much just chaos everywhere, man. It's getting crazy to watch, but we still got to attempt our best. We got to do our best to try and see what's going on with everything. So welcome in. Glad to have you here. If you're new, welcome in. And yeah, we do things pretty different around here. And we always pay attention. We look at a lot of in-depth stuff, a lot of little things here and there that help us to not be caught off guard when things happen. And we load up on information that allows us to warn people of what is coming and to get the gospel of Jesus to as many people as we can. So if you're new, welcome in. Glad to have you here. For all the regulars, well, you know how it goes. Anyway, so under the cover, normally I'd list off a bunch of things that we're going to go over tonight. There's too many to list off, so we're just going to go over a ton of things. A lot of this information has to do with things that have kind of gone under the radar because of the war in the Middle East. So we got to keep an eye on that stuff as well. Not only what's going on over there as large and extravagant as it is, there is a bunch of other stuff happening under the cover of it. So again, when one hand is flashing, the other one is always doing something sly. So we got to keep an eye on all that stuff. So yeah, bunch of different things that we're going to talk about. A plethora, as you could say. A plethora, and yeah, all that jazz. So hopefully everybody's doing all right. I'm just I am tired. Woo. I'm ready to go home. I don't know about you guys, ready to go home, but glad to have you guys here. Yeah, it looks like everybody's starting to come in, so good to see you guys. Let's just go ahead and get into le housekeeping.
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, I would certainly appreciate it. Yeah, again, our goal here is to try and warn people of what's going on. We don't want to be a channel that just regurgitates what we like. We don't want to be a propaganda channel. We want to be able to get the facts out to everybody, the real information of what's going on, because that allows us to be able to witness to people, to warn people, and to be able to get them the gospel. So liking, sharing, and subscribing does help do that, especially right now with YouTube. Again, we're hitting month 2 now. YouTube has shadow banned my channel. I'm still getting people that says they're not getting notifications. They have no idea new videos are going up. They're getting unsubscribed, all that type of jazz. So yeah, please like, share, subscribe. Certainly appreciate it. Also, if you want to, follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble. So make sure you guys go ahead and follow up there if you have Rumble or Telegram. I post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put on YouTube or like in a video format type of deal. So head over there if you have those platforms. If not, no worries. I understand. Just make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. And it's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening with this channel and what we do. We've been doing a lot this past week, to say the least. So make sure you guys go ahead and bookmark the website. Find the latest podcast live streams, the announcement page, the free book to download, all that type of jazz. Is over there. So yeah, just go ahead and bookmark that. And then if you guys like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and GiveSendGo. This channel is not monetized. I do not make anything from ads, views. I don't do paywalls. I don't sell things. I don't do subscriptions. I don't do any of that type of stuff. I believe it needs to be 100% free, especially right now. Definitely right now. And you guys are the ones that make that happen. So thank you guys. Again, you guys are the ones that make it all work. So I appreciate you guys for sure. So thank you for your support and making the wheels turn on this whole thing. So yeah. Also, just one of those things, time change for here in the United States. Some states don't do it. But yeah, time change. So make sure you guys change your clocks. I know I'm in the minority, but I am so glad that we're moving to this time change because I like it to be light later in the day. So I'm definitely grateful for that. So guys, make sure you change your clocks on that. Also, if you guys have not noticed on YouTube, I did a couple of extra shorter live streams this past week, going over a bunch of other details regarding the war. There's just so much stuff that I just had to get it out when I could because I can't cover it in the usual 2 live streams that we do. So I did a bunch of those, or not a bunch, but 2 of them this past week. So yeah, if you did not see those, make sure you guys go check it out. It's under the live stream section on the YouTube channel. I just did it on YouTube, so go check those out. Well, the first one's probably outdated at this point, but the second one still has relevant information. So anyways, all right, that's all we got for housekeeping. Oh my gosh, I'm tired. I'm sure a lot of you guys are tired as well, but we got a lot of things to cover tonight. So make sure you guys grab your caffeine and grab your snacks and stuff like that, because we got a lot to cover. It's going to be a doozy. Yeah, we're not going to go over Wretched Weather Report. It's been hit and miss a lot lately, I know, but there's just too much stuff going on, and that's the sacrificial lamb for this this live stream is the weather stuff. So we're not going to be going over that. Just got too much stuff. All right. With that, let's just go ahead and get into this right off the bat. And so I posted this. Jellyfish, I'm on no sleep, Zach. I feel that, Jellyfish. I'm with you. I got about 2 hours of sleep last night, so I'm with you. It's been nuts. All right. So I posted this on my Telegram this past week because, well, you know, it's relevant. Because this is one of the things that was shoved down our throats about why we have to go and vote for the lesser of 2 evils. And I seem to remember there was a very, very, very small select group of people that was saying that's a bunch of lie coming from Trump. And sure enough, here it is. So he just recently posted this. This was on March 5th. It is the 7th. So this was 2 days ago. He posted this on his Truth social. And number 5, you can see this is part of the Save America Act. Number 5, no transgender mutilation surgery for children without the express written approval of parents. So that means I'm cool with it as long as a parent signs off on it. So he is in favor of mutilating children's bodies to go along with the transgender thing as long as a parent signs off on it. And so this was one of those things where, again, we were warning about it. We were trying to tell people about it, and of course we got things slammed in our faces because of it. But this does in fact prove that it's all been one giant lie. Now he recently, after he got called out for this, because as soon as this came out, he got hammered. He went and edited out the last part of that thing in order to try and save his skin. But no, we caught it. And for those who don't know, this was actually something that he talked about publicly. He said it live publicly. I want to make sure that everybody hears it straight from his mouth, that he's okay with transgender surgeries for children as long as the parents sign off on it. So let's hear straight from him, shall we?
Look, this is a party, the Republican Party, of common sense. Forget about conservative, liberal. We're, let's say conservative, but we're really a party of, we need borders, we need fair elections, we don't want men playing in women's sports, we don't want transgender operations without parental consent.
Did you hear that last part? We don't, of course, everybody's seal clapping, but he says it. Don't want transgender surgeries without parental consent.
We don't want transgender operations without parental consent.
Yeah. So there you go. You know, all the showboating and the mic drops and the pedestal sitting and stuff that all these Christians and pastors and stuff like that continue to stand up for this Trump guy and defend him, which is just impossible at this point. You're just making yourself look like an idiot. Again, this is stuff that we were warning a year before he even took the office. We said he's lying. Very, very small select group of people said he's lying. Don't fall for it. And sure enough, everything that we've warned about has been coming true regarding this guy, because it doesn't matter who's in office. They will push the agenda forward, the elite's agenda forward. And that's just how it goes. And they don't care about you. Why would pedophile Trump give any rips about transgender surgeries? You know, so again, who cares? But he's the lesser of two evils. As long as it's not the Democrat, as long as it's not the cackling Kamala, as they say, and all that type of stuff. Let's just go ahead and keep going with this. It's so fascinating, the amount of emails that I get. Most people I just block because they continue to flood my emails with stupid stuff, trying to, call me out on something, and so I just block them, so I don't even see them anymore. But I still get emails all the time claiming that I'm wrong about all this stuff, and then when I ask them to clarify specifically what I'm wrong about, they can never tell me what I've been wrong about. And it's one of those things where I've been wrong about things, and I've apologized for it, saying I was wrong about it, but all the things that they keep saying that I'm wrong about when it comes to Trump and all this stuff is they can't ever tell me what I'm wrong about, because they want to live in delusion. They want to. That's the mindset that Scripture tells us that society is going to have nowadays. They are attaching themselves to fairy tales and fables and anything that tickles their ears, whether it's religious, spiritual, or whether it's political and something to do with reality. So Scripture's right again. Chalk it up. We're out of chalk. We're out of chalkboard because the Bible has been right too many times. It's amazing how that works. All right. Let's keep it going. Like I said, I got a couple updates regarding the war and then a whole bunch of stuff underneath it. But I do want to bring this up. U.S. Navy prepares third carrier strike group, third aircraft carrier deployment with USS George H.W. Bush near Iran. So the United States, who Trump has already claimed a victory over Iran. Okay. Apparently victory means we need to send in more reinforcements. So interesting how that works. Also interesting, Trump says that, and Hegseth both said that we have air superiority over Iran, but yet we just got told today by Hegseth that it'll be, that the United States will have air superiority over Iran in a couple of weeks. So which one is it? Again, it's the continuation of they're talking out both sides of their mouth, and they continue to just give you lies. That's why I don't trust anything that comes from their mouths when it comes to the situation, because they can't even get their stories straight. At least in past administrations, they had somewhat of an attempt to try and fool you, where they would at least stay on the same talking point. This one, they don't even care. They'll just change it in mid-sentence. So the U.S. Navy is preparing to deploy the USS George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group to the Middle East, potentially increasing the number of American carriers operating in the region to 3. The U.S. Navy is preparing to deploy the Bush Carrier Strike Group to the Middle East in a move that could raise the number of American carrier strike groups operating in the region to 3, according to U.S. defense officials. The deployment would significantly increase the U.S. Navy's ability to conduct sustained airstrikes, maritime security patrols, and deterrence operations near Iran, while strengthening protection for commercial shipping lanes in the Persian Gulf and surrounding waters. Strait of Hormuz is still closed, by the way, guys. Even though Iran is saying it's not closed, no ships are going through there because there's no insurance, and nobody wants to risk their lives, because any ship that does go through there that does not have a Chinese flag strapped to it is getting blown out of the water. So here we are. It says carrier strike groups typically include a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, guided missile destroyers, and a cruiser, providing a mobile air base capable of launching dozens of sorties daily and supporting regional security missions. It says, according to a Fox News report from March 6, 2026, the U.S. Navy Bush carrier has finished its pre-deployment workups off the Cape of Hatteras on the U.S. East Coast. The carrier is expected to cross the Atlantic and operate with its strike group in the Eastern Mediterranean, reinforcing the U.S. naval presence across the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and approaches to the Persian Gulf. The potential deployment allows the USS Gerald R. Ford crossing the Suez Canal. The ship now operates in the Red Sea. The presence of several U.S. carrier strike groups show a major increase in American military posture. Tensions with Iran are escalating. Maritime security is deteriorating, along with several strategic waterways. One of the things that I saw with this is the Ford, the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier has been deployed for roughly 8 months, which is on the longer side for deployment. So there's a chance that 3 carriers in there might only last for a short period of time, because it's most likely the Ford is going to have to come back for rest for the sailors on there, repairs, rearmament, and all that type of stuff that they normally go through. So the 3 carrier situation might only last for a few days before the Ford gets called back. We'll see what happens on with this, though. You never know. Depending on how things go, they might leave it out there for an extended period of time. With that, we also have this. Sorry, my word. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Cancellation of Army exercise fuels speculation about Mideast troop deployments. The elite 82nd Airborne Division, which specializes in ground combat and other fraught missions, is awaiting new orders after the unexpected change of plans. So, I have seen some stuff. So first of all, we know Trump has not ruled out deploying ground forces. Hegseth has not ruled out deploying ground forces. I'm seeing some reports from reporters that have been sitting in on meetings and talking to officials that there has been a lot of talk in the favor of putting American troops in Iran. There's been a lot of talks regarding that. There's nothing that's been official. There's a lot of rumors going out there. I don't put much weight in rumors unless there's actually something substantial to back it up. But there seems to be a lean that's starting to go in the direction of we're possibly entering into the point where they might start putting people on the ground. We've heard that there's different, possibly, special forces in there and stuff like that, which there probably are. They're always in countries like that, so that wouldn't be anything surprising. But yeah, there's definitely a lean in the direction that they might start possibly putting boots on the ground in there. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. So let's keep going. It says the Army in recent days abruptly canceled a major training exercise for the headquarters element of an elite paratrooper unit, officials said, fueling speculation within the Defense Department that soldiers specializing in ground combat and a range of other missions may be sent to the Middle East as the conflict with Iran widens. The 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg in North Carolina includes a brigade combat team of about 4,000 to 5,000 soldiers ready to deploy on 18 hours notice for missions as varied as seizing airfields and other critical infrastructure, reinforcing U.S. embassies, and enabling the emergency evacuations. I've said this from the very beginning. It would be an absolute bloodbath if the Americans did decide to put the boots on the ground in there. It would just become a bloodbath because Iran is not like Afghanistan. Iran is not like Iraq. It's the territory alone is an enemy for anybody who does not live there. And those mountains are sharp, jagged, and a nightmare to deal with. And this would not be good. Please, Lord, don't let that happen. It says no deployment orders have been issued as of Friday. They noted that the Army is expected to announce soon a previously scheduled Middle East deployment for a helicopter unit with the 82nd, but that won't happen until later in the spring. Other soldiers with the 82nd continued training in Louisiana in recent days, but the unexpected change of plans for the headquarters staff, the unit was told to stay put in North Carolina instead of joining the training event at Fort Polk in Louisiana. The 82nd's high-profile role in the past conflict has heightened expectations that the division's immediate response force could be called upon. Now, there was one thing, of course, it's buried in this article, but I think it is definitely worth bringing up and keeping an eye on because of some information we're going to go over in a second, which kind of adds a little weight to the possibility of it. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying there is some weight to the possibility that it may happen. It says if the administration elects to send ground forces into Iran, one early target analysts have said could be Karg Island, located about 15 miles from the mainland in the Persian Gulf. The island is home to some of Tehran's most significant oil infrastructure, with about 90% of the country's oil exports moving through facilities there. A U.S. seizure of Karg Island would give the Trump administration control of a centerpiece of the Iranian economy, but leave U.S. troops vulnerable to attack. If they were to go into Karg Island and take that, that would just have a gigantic target on the troops' heads, but that would be going in and snatching 90% of Iran's oil exports in a secluded island spot. And basically, it would be a stranglehold on the economy in Iran. But also on top of that, it's revealing, along with a couple other things, that the United States did not care at all about freeing the Iranians. There was some reporter, I don't remember who it was, or Dana something, with some news agency. I can't remember. I'm sorry, guys. But Dana something. And she had an interview with Trump on the phone. And Trump, without blatantly saying it, he basically said it has nothing to do with freeing the Iranians. He says, I don't care if we get another religious extremist in there, as long as there's somebody that we can work with. And so this was never about freeing the Iranians, even though we're continuing to get told that that's what it was about. It had nothing to do with it. And that adds more weight to the fact that the Iranian uprising, which has pretty much stopped entirely as soon as this war happened, there's nothing happening in regards to that, that it was probably orchestrated, false flag orchestrated, in order to justify the United States to come and build up off the coast so they can begin this thing. Which this is how this stuff happens all the time. So pretty interesting. And as I said, Trump pretty much confirmed that it had nothing to do with freeing the Iranians, has nothing to do. The concept that Iran was going to attack first has been proven false multiple times. So yeah, pretty interesting how that goes. And this is the first thing I thought of in regards to this. I don't know if you guys remember about this. Remember when it was Bush announced mission accomplished, and then the war went for year after year after year after year after year. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're currently seeing right now on that one. Mission accomplished, everybody. Oh, man. So there's clearly many different facade factors at play, like these wars usually happen. So anyways, all right, let's go ahead and keep this thing rolling. Got plenty to talk about. Fertilizer disruption from Iran conflict prompts global food shortage warnings. This is something that I talked about during one of our extra little live streams that we went over, is the fact that fertilizer has a massive amount of global fertilizer has halted. And if this holds long enough, you're looking at some serious problems when it comes to food shortages, cost of food going up, feed for cattle, and just everything. It says prices have jumped and exports have hit as war puts pressure on one of the largest producers. It says the conflict in Iran is disrupting fertilizer production and exports in the Middle East, tightening global supplies and raising fears of higher food prices. The Middle East is one of the world's largest fertilizer producers, while the Strait of Hormuz is a critical shipping route for exports. About 35% of global urea reports pass through the waterway, according to crude data. Urea is the most widely used nitrogen fertilizer, which in turn underpins about half of global food production. The route also handles 45%. So 35% of the stuff needed for nitrogen fertilizer, which underpins about half the global food production. But also, this route also handles 45% of global sulfur exports, a key ingredient used to produce phosphate fertilizers, as well as significant volumes of ammonia, a key ingredient for nitrogen fertilizers. So, as you can see, those are large numbers for very important things for food. And so, because of what is currently happening right now over there in the Middle East, this is going to send a shockwave through the food situation. And the longer this goes on, the worse that this situation is going to get, which means people everywhere are going to be affected by it. Everywhere. And so the cost of living goes up. Food shortages, things that you're used to getting off the store shelves, gone. People involved with farming and agriculture, they're not going to be able to do their usual production, especially as we're starting to get to spring, where they're going to be, getting things ready for new crops and whatnot. They're not going to be able to plant like they used to because they don't have the nitrogen fertilizer that they need for everything involving that situation. I don't claim to be an expert on farming, but I do know that's a key ingredient for a lot of farms out there. So this will cause some issues the longer that this goes on. It says if the disruption continues, consumers could see high prices for bread within 6 to 10 weeks, eggs within a few months, and pork and broiler chicken within 6 months estimated. So that's what we're looking at in regards to this. That affects all of us. That affects you. That affects me. Doesn't matter where you're at for most countries, because again, this is a dramatic wave across everybody. So keep an eye on this. Oh my goodness, man, get this frog out of my throat. All right. Keep it moving. If we kind of shoot through some of this stuff, sorry guys, we got so much to talk about. I'm trying to make sure everybody's aware of the details, but at the same time, we got to make sure that we're getting through everything. So we got this Palantir's double conflict of interest in the war against Iran. Palantir update. We got more Palantir after this too. Don't worry. War has inevitably claimed that 3 most senior figures in AI analytics firm, which both provided the justification for the U.S.-Israeli strikes and profits from the conflict. I don't know if you guys have seen this picture, but this is the mass gravesite for all of the children that were bombed in the school. That's been out there, so yeah. Again, we went over more details on that on the last little update live stream that we did. So it says 3 most prominent figures in Palantir Technologies, the AI data analytics firm at the heart of the intelligence used to justify U.S.-Israeli strikes in Iran, have each publicly advocated for exactly the military confrontation that followed, with one describing it as an investment opportunity. Of course they did. Palantir's co-founders, Peter Thiel and Joe Lonsdale, have both publicly argued that conflict with Iran is inevitable, with Lonsdale saying he was hoping to invest in Iran after a regime change. Lonsdale's pretty blunt with just wanting to kill anybody that gets in his way, kind of like Alex Karp is during his calls. Peter Thiel's a little bit more reserved. I think he's a little bit more tactical and strategic with this stuff, but Lonsdale is just let the blood flow as long as it gets me what I want and I can make money off of it. This is Palantir's CEO Alex Karp predicted war with Iran would prove the worth of the company's autonomous weapon systems. Palantir both informed, this is pretty important, Palantir both informed the formal assessments that precipitated Israeli and U.S. strikes in 2025 and is now profiting from the conflict as it provides real-time AI targeting to military operations by integrating classified data from satellites, surveillance, and other intelligence. So the same company that uses their technology to surveil the situation and give a recommendation to go to war is also the same company that provides technology for the wartime scenario that they can make money off of. So if there's one singular company that is deciding when to go to war and then can profit off of said war, do you think that there's not a conflict of interest there? Because that's what's happening. Palantir said, we ran the numbers, we better go to war, and then we're going to offer you some technology to help during the war that we can make money off of. And that is currently what we have happening. Palantir's Mosaic platform has served as the analytical backbone for the IAEA's Iran monitoring operation since 2015. That's right. Palantir's systems has been the systems that have been, quote unquote, monitoring Iran's nuclear program. You know, the one that's been 2 weeks away since 1989, according to Netanyahu? Yeah. The $50 million AI system processed approximately 400 million data objects, including satellite imagery, trade logs, metadata, and social media feeds from inside Iran. It operated chiefly by making predictive references based on pattern analysis, a method critics have described as minority report for uranium and a pretext fuel for sanctions and strikes against Iran. Mosaic was derived from the older Palantir system already sold to the Israeli Defense Forces for its operations against Iranian-backed groups in Gaza and Lebanon, a lineage that raised further questions about the platform's independence as a verification tool. Yeah, in case you guys don't know, the IDF also uses Palantir system to surveilled Gaza ahead of time during the war, and so they were making a bunch of money off of that as well. When Mosaic flagged an apparent surge of enriched uranium at Iranian facilities between the 6th and 12th of June of 2025, the platform's assessment that Iran was potentially weeks from producing multiple nuclear weapons reportedly formed the basis of Israel's intelligence against Iran. If we jump down, it says, speaking at a press conference on Monday, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi said that inspectors have lacked access to key Iranian facilities for over 8 months, preventing them from verifying whether nuclear material is being diverted for military purposes. So no human was able to deduct if it was true. They simply went off of Palantir's AI pattern recognition algorithm. And that algorithm brought them into 2 war events where Palantir has profited off of both. Who's running the show? However, he said that there is no evidence of an active nuclear weapons program. We don't see a structured program to manufacture nuclear weapons. Now, I've heard, the thing that, the IAEA, you can't trust them. You can't trust them because, they got all these anti-Israel people in there and stuff like that. Do you know who's one of the largest investors and has multiple people involved in the IAEA group? Israel. They pretty much control that thing. So can you really trust that? And so when he says, somebody who's a part of that says that there's no evidence that they were building nuclear weapons, that's coming from Israeli paid groups. Do with that what you will. It says Palantir's dual role as the analytical engine powering nuclear verification and simultaneously a strategic military partner of the U.S. and Israeli governments represents a fundamental conflict of interest at the heart of the global non-proliferation architecture. In a CNBC interview in June of 2025 during the 12-day war between Israel, the U.S. and Iran, Lonsdale urged preemptive strikes against Iranian nuclear infrastructure. He expressed confidence in American bunker buster munitions, saying that he had been told they work and that you can always hit things multiple times just to be sure. Lonsdale described the country as one that could be a prosperous republic if not run by crazy people, and said that he could not wait to invest in Iran after the anticipated regime change. Palantir stock has surged since the Trump administration took office, and its valuation now exceeds $300 billion. But the war with Iran has been good for the firm's shareholder, with its stock rising 7% in just the first week of the conflict alone. Man. You know, there is a lot of little details that seem to be conveniently left out depending on who you listen to. And I know I sound like a broken record. I get it. But I still need to make sure that I put this out there in case there's some new people listening. When you base your version of reality upon information that only feeds what you already believe, you are chasing fables. You are living in a created world that doesn't exist. You don't have a true understanding of the reality of the situation that we are currently in. And that's not an insult. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I'm not trying to attack anybody. But this is really what it is. And this is one of those things where I almost live it almost every week, because the stuff that I look at, there's so many times where I've had to completely change a direction or a thought process or an outlook on something that I thought was, I got something. And I went and I proved myself to be false on that. And I had to adjust. I had to go in a different direction. It's something that you always have to adjust as things are going forward. And for those who just start that process, that takes a long time. It's hard. And you really got to learn and discipline yourself and go in that direction. But for those who have made it through the first, second, and third walls of that, it's a little bit easier, but still, it's a project to try and maintain, especially in today's world. But I can't stress it enough. There's so much information that I come across, and then I compare it to what's being put out there. And you guys know me, my target is to go and see what's being just thrown up all over people when it comes to the church and pastor and prophecy community and stuff like that. And it's just amazing how much information is just conveniently left out in order to promote their side of things. And I'll be honest, there's sometimes, just every once in a while, I just come across that stuff and it just irks me. It makes me angry, because it's clear that they just don't care to actually give the full perspective of what's going on, because it's more about maintaining supporters and subscriptions and donations than it is actually about getting the real information out there. It's just sad, man. It's just sad. Anyways, all right, that's enough of that. Let's keep going. Looks like Russia's benefiting from this, though. Does this shock us? Especially since we know how connected Trump is to Putin and the Kremlin? It shouldn't. U.S. Treasury quietly lifts sanctions to free stranded Russian oil bound for India. Oh. So under the cover, this was never announced in the mainstream news, but silent sanction lifted off of Russian oil. Guess who benefits from that? Well, India, because they're buying it, but Russia. How does Russia get it? Because they get paid with a skyrocketing oil price for the oil that is already sitting there. Interesting. Says the U.S. Treasury Department quietly issued a new general license authorizing Indian refineries to purchase millions of barrels of Russian crude oil sitting in floating storage, a move that unlocks frozen revenue for Moscow without requiring any concessions on the Ukraine war. The Office of Foreign Assets Control issued General License 133, clearing the way for Indian buyers to take delivery of Russian crude and petroleum products that were already aboard tankers when the license took effect. The license runs through April 4th, 2026 and applies only to the transaction where the oil is offloaded at an Indian port and purchased by an entity organized under Indian law. I am the law. But yeah, so we have a case here where because oil prices are going up, basically the United States lifted sanctions on Russian oil, which means Russia is making bank because of it. Interesting how that works. How about this one? Besant, George Soros's boy. Besant says U.S. may unsanction more Russia oil post-India move. Oh, man. This stuff's sliding under the radar. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, again, George Soros's boy, said that the U.S. may lift sanctions on further Russian oil supply after a move Thursday to give Indian refiners the green light to purchase crude from the nation. Treasury agreed to let our allies in India start buying Russian oil that has already been in the water. Bessent said in an interview with Fox Business Friday, to ease the temporary gap of oil around the world, we have given them permission to accept the Russian oil. We may unsanction other Russian oil, which means Russia will make bank again. And again, I always got to say this every time we talk about sanctions because it's the dumbest thing. It really is the stupidest thing. You have two countries that want to trade between each other, that want to sell things to each other. Then you have some third country not involved with it, sitting in the corner, sucking their thumb, who walks up and says, no, you can't do that. And then so both countries that want to trade between each other, not involving the third one, can't trade because some other country just says, no, I don't want you to do that. The sanctions are so stupid. They really are. It's the dumbest thing. Besant said that there's hundreds of millions of sanctioned barrels of crude on the water now. In essence, by unsanctioning them, Treasury can create supply. And Moscow benefits from the supply. Interesting. Very interesting on that one. How about this one? U.S. to exempt Rosneft's German unit from sanctions indefinitely. Another benefit for Russia in all this. Russia seems to be making out pretty good from this whole Middle East situation. The U.S. will exempt the German unit of Rosneft PJSC from sanctions against the Russian oil major indefinitely, according to a person familiar with the matter, marking a win for Berlin after intense diplomatic negotiations. Keep in mind, the EU has been planned a vote April, is it 4th? Somewhere in early April to basically sign legislation to outright completely ban all Russian oil into Europe. But then this Middle East thing happens. Europe is in serious trouble because they can't get oil because the Strait of Hormuz is closed, which means that their only option is to go and buy oil from Russia, even though they're getting ready to sign something in April that would ban it outright altogether. It's interesting how this is all working, almost as if maybe this is a shift in order to take down Europe even further. Something to think about, that's all. The German economy minister said it's in close and constructive contact with relevant U.S. authorities regarding an extension of the U.S. sanctions exemption. The arrangement would ease the risk of sanctions disrupting German refining activities at the time when the escalating war in the Middle East is already rattling global energy markets. And it is rattling global energy markets like crazy. Saw the list, and of course, number one in the United States with the highest gas increase so far, Texas. Yay. Thanks. Average increase of gas in Texas went up 96 cents. It's going up everywhere. I saw something. I think it was from Gas Buddy. If you guys don't know about Gas Buddy, check it out. And I think Gas Buddy works for like Europe countries too and all that stuff. But Gas Buddy, they track this stuff and follow it and everything. And Yeah, they said it's like the fastest and highest gas increase in like 10 years or something like that. It's been dramatic. So it's a good thing to follow. If you want to, especially in times like this. I always pull up Gas Buddy during war events involving gas and oil and things like that. Good to keep track. No, don't get me started. Yeah, we're not going to go there. All right. You just sit there and sulk and deal with it yourself. All right. This is important. It wasn't the word I was looking for, but it'll work. Iran strikes Israel's largest Haifa refinery in retaliation for Tehran oil facility attack. So there is an exchange of major hits on Iran and Israel oil storage and production. So the IRGC claims precision missile hit on Israeli energy site amid escalating U.S.-Israel campaign against Iran. It says Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced on Saturday that it targeted Israel's Haifa refinery with Kibar Shika ballistic missiles in direct response to attacks on oil infrastructure in southern Tehran. The IRGC statement described the action as an immediate retaliation for what it termed an unprovoked assault by U.S. and Israeli forces on energy reserves near the Iranian capital. Reports from Iranian state-affiliated media indicated that air raids hit oil storage tanks and related facilities in southern Tehran minutes earlier, triggering fires and prompting swift countermeasures. Israeli military sources have not yet confirmed the damage to Haifa refinery, and the Tehran strike reportedly focused on southern oil depots with plumes of smoke observed by local witnesses. Barr's new agency, quoting IRGC channels, stated that the Haifa response occurred right now following the Tehran incident, underscoring the rapid tit-for-tat nature of the exchanges. So, first thing that happened was Israel went in and they struck a major oil storage facility in Tehran, just a few minutes from like central Tehran. Massive fire cones straight up in the air, huge amount of smoke. The oil started leaking and getting into the sewer system, running all throughout the city. So there's fire all throughout the city coming up through the sewage system, out of the manhole covers and stuff in the middle of the streets and stuff. Just it's insane. You guys can easily find the pictures and stuff like that if you want to check it out. It's just the entire sky is black, and then you just see a wall of fire just everywhere. And so that's what happens when you hit oil storage, because it's not production, it's barrels of oil, which means it leaks and it spreads, so it goes everywhere. It's like a wildfire almost. And so they hit that, and so after that was hit, immediately after, Iran went and struck the Haifa refinery, and so they're kind of just going back and forth in regards to, if you escalate, we'll escalate type of deal, whether one way or the other way. They're vice versa. That's how they're operating in regards to that. But yeah, you guys can go and check that out if you want to see what it looks like. Yeah, they got slammed, Iran's situation, because there's fire everywhere. And so I want to bring this up because, again, Trump confirmed that this has nothing to do with freeing the Iranian people. He doesn't care about them unless they bring him money. And then if they stop bringing him money, then he doesn't care. But we got confirmation from one of the energy officials in the Trump administration about what their goal is regarding all of this. Let's hear from this guy, shall we?
This is a long-term game, because what we want to do is get such massive oil reserves in Iran out of the hands of terrorists. Mm-hmm. And so what we're going to experience here in the short term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit, because ultimately we're not going to have to worry about these issues in the Strait of Hormuz, because we're going to get all of the oil out of the hands of terrorists.
He said it twice. We're going to get all of the oil. we're going to get the oil. Where have we heard all this before? We're going to get the oil. The United States is going to get the oil. We know Iran's got a whole massive export of oil. So what does the U.S. want to do? Go in and take said oil. My word, it's just like history on repeat, aren't we? Just grab the oil. And it's interesting because we're hearing reports that the U.S. troops, if they do get sent in, the location that they might go to is Karg Island, where 90% of Iran's oil goes through. See, this is what I'm talking about, is if you get these little details, you can start stacking up a case and see if there's weight to it. Now, again, we don't know if there's troops going in, but there's a lot of weight to the fact that if they do go in, it's to seize 90% of Iran's oil. So it's pretty interesting how this all operates. Again, this is why, again, I make the point. We go over all of these little details and little things here and there, and these things that, by themselves don't necessarily, have much value. But if you start collecting these little nuggets, you can start to see a picture being formed. And I think we might be, not saying for sure because we don't know, but there might be a picture forming where if troops go in, it might be to secure Karg Island. This dude, Jared Agan, National Energy Dominance Council Executive Director, is saying twice their goal is to go in and get the oil. And Trump has confirmed that it's not about saving the Iranians, and he doesn't care if there's a religious freak in control, as long as they work with him. What is working with him? We sanction and work and take the oil. So there's a lot of stacking that happens when we pay attention to things like that. So wanted to bring that forward on that. Now, switching from oil to water, this is, again, we talked about this on our last little live stream. Again, if you didn't go check out that live stream, make sure you do. I think there's a lot of good information on that. But the water situation would be the dire situation if attacks started happening on the desalination plants over there. So now we don't know on this one. We're just kind of going off of a claim from Iran, but it could be true, it could be false. We don't know, but it's worth keeping an eye on. It says U.S. attacks water desalination plant in Keshem Island, claims Iranian foreign minister. Iran's foreign minister accuses the United States of attacking a desalination plant on Keshem Island, disrupting water supply to 30 villages. This incident raises tensions in the region. It says the Iranian foreign minister accused the United States on Saturday of targeting a freshwater desalination plant on Keshem Island, disrupting supplies to more than 24 villages. The U.S. committed a blatant and desperate crime by attacking a freshwater desalination plant on Keshem Island, Sayed Abbas Arakchi wrote. And he says water supply in 30 villages has been impacted. Attacking Iran's infrastructure is a dangerous move with grave consequences. He further stated, warning that the U.S. set this precedent, not Iran. So we don't know if this is true or not. And because of the information blackout over there in the Middle East, I don't know if you guys know this. I kind of mentioned it a few episodes back. But the Gulf states and Israel has basically made it illegal and a crime. You will get arrested and put in prison if you start filming any damage sites over there, which is why we're not getting much information, like picture and video information regarding the actual damage being done on the Israeli side, the U.S. side, the Gulf state side, and so on and so forth. We're getting a few things here and there, but not what we normally get in this situation, because they don't want that damage getting out to the public. which is why I think they're getting hit much, much harder than they're letting on, which is why I don't trust the information coming out. Iran's kind of got the same thing where they don't want that information getting out, but for the most part, the internet's just down, which is making it hard to get actual evidence of that as well. So there's a giant blackout happening over there. And so it's kind of making it difficult. So we don't necessarily know if this is true or not. What's interesting, though, is he's threatening that says the United States and Israel set the precedent for this attack, which means he's basically saying if we start attacking your desalination plants, then it's because you guys attacked ours, whether it's true or not. We can't verify it. We don't know for sure. If you guys don't know, this is pretty important. Taking salt water and making it fresh water so you can drink over there, especially since, you know, they're in the desert. So I went and I looked, got some images and some maps and statistics on why this would be important. And this is why it's so vital to pay attention to, and why that threat of the foreign minister saying that the U.S. and Israel set this precedent, because they may start attacking, because desalination use, Iran's fresh water, only 3% of Iran's fresh water comes from desalination. Everything else, we already know that they're in a water drought over there, but everything else comes from the mountains, and they have rivers, freshwater rivers, and all that type of stuff. Only 3% of Iran's fresh water comes from desalination. Israel and the Gulf states, 85% of their fresh water is from desalination plants. 85%. So if Iran starts taking out those plants, you're talking about a serious humanitarian problem, because you're talking about a bunch of people that aren't getting drinkable water at that point. And that could be a serious problem if it escalates to that. And so I went and I did some looking at this. And so we'll take a look at Israel's thing first. Israel seawater desalination plant. You got these red dots here are their desalination plants. This is where they get not all, but most of their fresh water is from those 5 plants. Iran can strike them. Iran can hit these things if they wanted to. They have the munitions to do it. Right in reach. So this is interesting, and we know that the coast is Israel's least defended part. So that could be a problem. Then we also have here, this is Riyadh, this is Saudi Arabia. All the little black dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 desalination plants here for Saudi Arabia, all within reach of Iran's missiles. Again, Iran, 3%, Israel and Gulf, 85%. This one's kind of more of a mess, but this is the best one I could find, most updated. All the little blue, weird-looking things are, this is the Gulf states, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, all these groups right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I see 13. Might be another one I missed there. All within reach of Iran. That's a lot of targets too. So you'd have to try and defend all of those suckers, depending on where they're going, which means there's a much better opportunity for Iran to issue some serious water war damage if they decide to actually go after this. So if it's true, again, I don't know. I have no way of verifying it. All we can do is go off of this claim with Iran. If they did strike that desalination plant and Iran says, okay, they opened the door, so if we start doing this, remember, you guys started it, they have a whole lot of targets and can do much more damage through these water strikes than what Israel and the United States just did to theirs over there. So this is something to pay attention to. So like when this first thing started, I said, watch out for the oil production plants, because that would be a way to escalating this thing to a much higher level. And it happened. It came in, it did it. That was kind of expected to happen. And they did. They started hitting those places all over. This would be the next one, and this would be a much more dramatic step, because you're not talking about shipping, you're not talking about gas, you're not talking about fertilizer. You are talking about literally people being on a 72-hour timer for drinkable water, and they're in the middle of the desert with no way of getting out. A lot of people could die from that. So this is just one of those things where, again, I'm not predicting, I'm not speculating, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm not saying that attack did happen. All I want to do is just give you guys this information, give you some statistics and some idea of what would happen if it does escalate. And there's a chance that the door may have been open for it to get to that point. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys are armed with that. So if it does happen, we're not caught off guard. This is a case of, I pray that it doesn't, because a lot of people will die if that happens. So I pray that it does not. And I suggest you guys do the same on that one. So, okay. That's what we got there. I saw a comment that I thought was interesting that I wanted to address, but that was a minute ago and I don't know where it would be at. Oh, 10 Cactus Ren says it's weird that we can't just see what's going on over there. It's so weird to me with all the tech we have. Yeah, but again, the higher tech that we have, the more ability for them to lock it down when it comes to that. So they've arrested a bunch of people. They're in the Gulf states and in Israel, they arrested a whole bunch of reporters. They kicked a whole bunch of reporters out for breaking the rules in regards to it. Iran's internet is down over there. It's still down, still dealing with those issues. Even the satellite, European US satellite system that we have, where you can actually go in and rent the ability to, you pay per square mile or something like that, and you can get a satellite view. They turned it off. So they even went to a private corporation that does top-down satellite view rental, and they turned it off. So even people like us, if we wanted to get top-down view, we can't even go and look at it that way, because they don't want people to see what's really going on over there. They want people in the dark. They want people blind, which is telling me that things are much, much worse over there than what we're being told. That's why I don't trust when they say only 6. Oh, that was something. I'm glad that you got me on that track, because there was something I wanted to bring up. That's why I don't trust the United States when they say that only 6 U.S. American soldiers have died. I don't believe that for a second at all. I'm also getting reports, and these are from nurses and doctors in Germany that work at a hospital that takes in foreign soldiers for treatment and care after they've been wounded in combat. They have been flooded with American soldiers at that hospital, which means if there's that many people, that many American soldiers coming in that are wounded, that need care in a German hospital, because they airlift them out and send them over there, Germany's close by, that tells me that many have died along with it. You're not going to sit there and tell me that they're all wounded. That tells me that there's been more that have been killed. We're just not being told. So that's why I just don't trust any of this stuff. And then I remember there's a report that came from Jewish state media. This was like 2 days after this thing started. They said that they eliminated 50% of Iran's missile launchers. First of all, there's no possible way that you can tell how many are gone, so I didn't buy that. Then they just came out and said that Iran's only got 150 missile launchers left. Again, I'm not buying that either. It's like, where are they coming up with these things? And it's just, yeah, none of it's true. Plus, I don't know if people saw this, but there's a whole bunch of the Israelis tried to do a helicopter drop in Lebanon to take out some Hezbollah encampments. They got shot down, and a whole bunch of Israeli soldiers were killed over there too. And again, these are just little tiny things that I've been able to gather, but for the most part, it's just I just don't trust any of that information that's coming out from either side, from the United States, from Israel, from Iran. You know, when it comes from the official sources, I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it. So I think the damage, both structurally and humanity, has been much worse than what they're telling us. Yeah, exactly, Nerdo. How can you know how many are gone if you don't know how many they have? Exactly. That's what I mean. And I don't trust any of it. Plus, we've gotten plenty of official reports coming out that have been proven false. Like, remember when the official report came out that Khamenei's son was killed and he's alive? Imagine that. Remember when the official report came out that Israel launched a missile into the building where the cleric delegation was having discussions about their next leader, and Israel reported that 88 of them were killed in the building, and then come to find out that they were actually meeting remotely from secure locations and nobody was actually in that building? Remember that one too? That's what I mean. It's like this official report stuff is just, you just can't believe any of it. You just can't believe any of it. Along with that, we're continuing on with the bypassing Congress. U.S. skips congressional review to approve munitions sale to Israel. This is the U.S. State Department said on Friday it had approved a sale worth of $151.8 million to Israel for munitions and munitions support without submitting it for congressional review. So just completely bypassing Congress like they did with this war, which it has come out. Trump has called it a war. Hegseth has called it a war. Official Pentagon documents has called it a war, which requires congressional approval for it. But yet it's an illegal war. And so they're bypassing Congress. Again, this is all this Trump administration has done, is completely bypass Congress on everything that they do. So this should not shock us. It says U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio determined an emergency existed that required an immediate sale to Israel. The State Department said with an announcement coming a week after the U.S. and Israel started their attacks on Iran. So it's an emergency. It's a national security emergency that we have to do this. Well, if you were so prepared for this war and you had it all planned out, you wouldn't need an emergency munitions sale to Israel. Now, would you? So again, this tells us that they weren't prepared. They were not ready for Iran to have the answer, the response back that they've had. And then on top of that, they're bypassing Congress altogether because of an illegal war. Israel has requested that type of thing. It's basically 1,000-pound bomb bodies for their munitions. The State Department said in a statement, the State Department said on Friday that Rubio had determined that the sale is a national security interest for the United States. Right. And I am the Royal King of Hoboken. That's how we go on that one. Wars and rumors of wars, baby. How about this one? I was waiting for this one. Indonesia suspends participation in Board of Peace following attack on Iran. Imagine that. The leader of the Board of Peace, you know, the one bombing the ever-living lights out of Iran over there. He's apparently the leader of the Board of Peace. So a country decided, nah, we're going to dip out of this thing. How about that? Indonesia has announced the suspension of all discussions on the proposed Board of Peace, an initiative launched by U.S. President Donald Trump as military tensions rise in the Middle East. Indonesia Foreign Minister Sugianto Sausage, I don't know, said that the decision to suspend participation was taken because of the latest military escalation in the region, which has directly affected the foreign policy priorities of countries involved in the initiative. He explained that international attention has now shifted to the consequences of the conflict with Iran. He added that Indonesia would hold intensive consultations with its partners in the Gulf region as they are directly affected by the ongoing attacks and rising tensions. Indonesia's participation in the council has also faced strong criticism from domestic political and religious groups. They argue that joining an initiative led by Trump administration could undermine Jakarta's long-standing position in support of the Palestinian cause. Taking bets. I'm not a betting man, but taking bets. How many countries are going to bail out on the board of peace because of what's happening in the Middle East? Just throw in a guess. Just for fun. Throw in a guess in the chat or the comments if you're watching later. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. All right. Everybody good? Lori says 10. Ooh, that's high. I'm not sure I would go 10. But you never know. Maybe we will. Maybe we will see 10. Interesting. Andrew's saying 5. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning to. Maybe 5. I'm thinking maybe 4, somewhere in there. Yeah. We'll see. Emily Jabor is the mayor of Hoboken. Well, I'm the royal king of Hoboken, so she reports to me. Rick is saying 7. Okay. That's the diplomatic response right there. Diane's saying half of them. Okay. Cindy's also going with 10. All right. So you guys are thinking high number. Okay. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking low. Interesting. Throw your guesses in there. We'll see what happens in the future. See who's right. All right. Let's keep this train of moving. We still got a bunch of stuff to talk about. So we have this coming out. U.S. holds secret indictment of Delcy Rodriguez. Top opposition claims. So this has alignment to do with holding a threat, basically holding a gun to the head of Delcy Rodriguez in order to do what the Trump administration wants them to do, or face the same consequences of Maduro. This is a U.S.-funded opposition journalist revealed that Trump's Department of Justice had crafted a secret indictment of Venezuela's acting president to hold it over her head and will execute it if she, quote-unquote, derails. Says the Trump administration is using a secret indictment to assert leverage over Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, according to the editor-in-chief of the U.S. government-funded outlet Armando.info. One of the information we manage is that the U.S. is holding an indictment against Rodriguez to make it public just in case she derails. Valentina Larez Martiz revealed during a February 6, 2026 webinar hosted by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, or OCCRP, an outlet that is sponsored by the U.S. government. Just to hold it over her head, asked the OCCRP deputy editor, Julia Wallace. Yeah, so I think she and her brother, they are in this survival mode, and they will have the capacity to move the pieces as long as the U.S. backs her up. Armando.info's Martiz affirmed. A January 17th, 2026 report by the Associated Press revealed that the Drug Enforcement Administration classified acting President Rodriguez as a priority target almost as soon as she was appointed as vice president in 2018. David Smeld, an academic who crusades for regime change in Venezuela at the U.S. government and ExxonMobil-funded Atlantic Council, described the DEA investigation of Rodriguez as logical. Smeld explained to the AP that the investigation gives the U.S. government leverage over her. She may fear that if she does not do as the Trump administration demands, she could end up with an indictment like Maduro. And it says, during the OCCRP webinar, Armando.info's Martiz noted that the U.S. slapped sanctions on Delcy Rodriguez in 2017. However, she doesn't have an open and formal investigation against her. But that could all change, she insisted, if the acting president defies the Trump administration's paternalistic instructions. Laris Martinez is the prime position to know if the U.S. is preparing a secret indictment of Rodriguez, as the publication she edits, Armando.info, functions at the center of a network of U.S. government-funded journalistic outlets which exist to shop dirt on Latin American leaders targeted by Washington. So we're starting to get a little bit more information regarding the structure of what's happening here in the quote-unquote Western Hemisphere that they're currently setting up. So it appears that Delcy Rodriguez currently has a gun to her head that says, you're going to do exactly what the Trump administration tells you to do. Otherwise, we're going to take you out just like we did with Maduro, which explains why everything that the Trump administration is doing over there in Venezuela is coming through. They're taking the oil situation. They're planting billionaire oil magnates in there to take over the situation. We just saw the report that the Trump administration is basically ransacking Venezuela's gold deposits and gold banks over there. They're taking all the gold from Venezuela because Delcy Rodriguez has no choice. If she wants to live, if she wants to survive, she basically just has to let the United States come in and ransack her country. Starting to make a little bit more sense with what's going on. What you guys are witnessing, and I know this hurts people who believe that the United States is the good guys. I understand that. But what you're watching right now is the United States is becoming an evil empire. On the public side of things, I guess I should say. Because they've always been working behind the scenes as an evil empire. But now they're just going out there and conquering whatever they want to, taking whatever they want to, just because they can. That's what you're witnessing right now. The United States doesn't care, and they're just going to go in there and take whatever they want. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the response. They don't care what anybody wants. Here it is. It's like you can hear the Imperial March. Is that what it is? That's the Star Wars thing with Darth Vader, right? I'm not a Star Wars guy, but I think that's what it is, the Imperial March. It's almost like you can hear that music faintly because that's what's going on. Especially because we also have this report as well. DOJ official pushes for cases against Cuban leaders as Trump eyes regime change. It says a federal prosecutor in Florida is looking to build criminal cases against leaders of Cuba's government and Communist Party, according to people familiar with the matter, as President Trump has openly suggested the country would be his next target for regime change. The Trump appointment U.S. attorney in Miami has created a working group that includes officials from the Treasury Department, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration to gather evidence for such prosecutions. Prosecutors are looking for potential crimes related to drugs, immigration, and other violations. Cuba isn't seen as a drug trafficking hub. The involvement of Treasury officials suggests prosecutors could be pursuing charges for sanctions violations, legal experts said. It could result in the arrest warrants that can be executed by the same means as we saw in Venezuela. Cuba's the next target. On Friday, Trump told CNN that Cuba is going to fall very soon. He indicated he plans to send U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio there. We're really focused on this one right now. We've got plenty of time, but Cuba's ready after 50 years, he said. The administration is searching for Cuban government insiders who can help cut a deal to push out the regime by the end of the year. I'll say that again. The administration is searching for Cuban government insiders who can help cut a deal to push out the regime by the end of the year. The exact same thing that happened in Venezuela. It's an empire now. And they're just going to go and do whatever they want to do. with that, Hegseth and Stephen Miller had a press briefing at Southern Command headquarters, and Hegseth said the quiet part out loud. You know how we've been talking about when all this stuff started swirling around? We were talking about how the Trump administration was looking to bring in the technate, that technate map, all the way from Greenland, Panama Canal, Venezuela, down to Guam, and all that. They're trying to basically take all of that and build the technate, the 1930s new map that was put forward by Elon Musk's great-grandfather. Great-grandfather. I think it's grandfather. But it was established in the 1930s. And it looks very similar to what the World War II map was originally going to be too, before that all fell through because Hitler went off the rails. But Hegseth himself said the quiet part out loud. He confirmed it at this press briefing at Southern Command. Let's hear it, shall we?
That is why President Trump has drawn a new strategic map from Greenland to the Gulf of America to the Panama Canal and its surrounding countries. At the Department of War, we call this strategic map the Greater North America. Why? Because every sovereign nation and territory north of the equator, from Greenland to Ecuador and from Alaska to Guyana, is not part of the global South. It is our immense security perimeter in this great neighborhood that we all live in. Each one of these countries border either the North Atlantic or the North Pacific. Each one of these countries sits north of the two basic geographic barriers that exist in this region, the Amazon and the Andes Mountains. This is basic geography that we don't teach in schools as much as we should. And it restores our north-south relations, and we must get it right. In the north, the United States must enhance posture and presence in cooperation with you and our sovereign partners to defend our shared immediate security perimeter. In the south, meaning south of the equator, the other side of this great neighborhood, we will strengthen partnerships through increased burden sharing. This will enable you to take a greater role to defend the South Atlantic and the South Pacific, and to secure critical infrastructure and resources in partnership with us and other Western nations. This is what we did in World War II.
This is what we did in World War II. I know there's many people in there commenting that you hate Hegseth. That's great. I hope you paid attention to what he just said, because that's the important part. Don't let that make you forget what you just heard. He's telling you. I even put the map in the background. This is the technate map from the 1930s established by Technocracy Inc. This is exactly what we've been watching for. This is what we've been paying attention. This is what we thought that they were doing, that they were attempting to build. And so what they're doing is he just said it out loud. He just said the quiet part out loud. He just told us what they're attempting to do. They're wanting to establish the technate of America. And you can see Greenland all the way down to the tip of the South down there. And that's what we've been getting hints of, but he said it out loud now. And what's interesting is he talked about World War II. This is what they were trying to do, World War II. Why is that important? Because they had the new map drawn up at post-World War II. Because, again, we've talked about it in the past. World War II was designed to set up the new hemisphere system around the world. And so the war was there to establish new boundaries, new territories, to allow certain countries to be taken over by other certain countries so they controlled it. And it was an orchestrated war to make this new global system happen. And I personally believe that Satan thought that that was his attempt. I believe that he had Hitler picked out, and I believe that Satan thought that this was his opportunity to go and build this thing, and God said, not yet. And he allowed Hitler to go off the rails, completely destroying that opportunity. And so that's why we're where we're at now. But I think they're taking their next shot now. I think that's what they're doing, is they're attempting to take that next shot, and they're trying to build what they were trying to build back in World War II. And so I think that's currently what we are witnessing right now. And Hegseth said the quiet part out loud. He mentioned from the tip, certain countries, down to this, certain countries, this side of the equator, that side of the equator, this hemisphere, this neighborhood, everything that we've been hearing. And that's what we're currently seeing right now. This is very, very interesting. This is something that went very under the radar because of everything that's currently happening right now. People are so caught up in the Middle East war, and they're so caught up in the Epstein situation that they allowed this to just slide right underneath. That's why I always say, when one hand's flashing, pay attention to the other one, because you'll be surprised at some of the stuff you'll see that's happening behind the scenes in regards to this. So this is interesting. Pay attention, especially with this new shield thing, the what they're doing with all the Latin American countries and stuff like that. What they're doing with that is they're attempting, I believe, this is my perspective on it. I'm not going to say that this is what they're doing. This is my perspective on it. I believe that they're attempting to organize those southern countries to make it a much easier transfer to build this. And you'll notice some countries were specifically left out of that whole thing. And they're the largest economies, with some of them already being threatened by the United States because the United States wants to take them too. Mexico, Colombia, and there's a third one. I can't remember who it was. But it's also interesting that this new shield thing that they're doing is they're trying to build this huge, giant protection fence type of thing. But yet those three countries that got left out leaves a gigantic hole. And they just happen to be the same countries that Trump has threatened to go in. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder if that's going to be the next target for this U.S. empire. Interesting. Okay. Still got that frog in my throat. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Pay attention to that one. Keep an eye on what's happening there. Something else that's rather important that's just kind of going under the radar. BlackRock, $26 billion private credit fund limits withdrawals. BlackRock is blocking investors in the private credit market from withdrawing their money. This is a huge red flag for the economy. And it's the private credit. This is credit. There's no liquid on this thing. There's no liquidity to it. If this thing goes, it all goes. And BlackRock, the biggest behemoth, can't pay out what investors are requesting back with their investment. Because BlackRock is one of those companies where they don't hold cash. And this is all important for when we go over this real quick. This is all important. BlackRock doesn't hold cash. They don't hold liquidity. So cash equals liquidity, physical money. They don't hold it. Everything that comes in, they invest and buy something else. They're all about asset control. That's why we hear BlackRock owns this, BlackRock bought that, BlackRock controls this, BlackRock's on that board, is because it's all about asset holding. And so when investors want to go into the private credit market to pull money out because they see that it's not looking good, that's why they're trying to get out, BlackRock has to halt it, has to shut it down and say, no, they're freezing it because they don't have the money to give it to them. They would have to start selling other assets in order to do it. So this is pretty significant. Definitely something to pay attention to. It says BlackRock Inc. curbed withdrawals from one of its biggest private credit funds after client requests for redemptions spiked. The latest sign of investor anxiety about the $1.8 trillion private credit industry. The firm's $26 billion HPS corporate lending fund, one of the largest non-traded business development companies, said in a statement Friday that shareholders requested 9.3% of their shares, but management decided to cap the repurchases at 5%, while the total value of the shares would have been about $1.2 billion. According to Bloomberg calculations, investors will get back about $620 million from that fund held at year end. So basically, the investors wanting to pull out was going to pull $1.2 billion out of BlackRock's $26 billion fund, and they said nope, and they froze it. It's the clearest instance of gating withdrawals among major private credit funds since late last year, when investors grew increasingly skittish about the asset class after high-profile collapses raised concerns about lending standards. BlackRock shares fell as much as 8.3 on Friday, while the stocks of the alternate asset managers, including KKR & Co. and Ares Management Corp., also swooned as they're off to their worst start to a year in a decade. Separate BlackRock private credit fund with about $2.2 billion of assets at year end also disclosed Friday that investors asked to redeem 4.5% of their shares from that one as well. So we're seeing a big red flag go up all of a sudden, because you have investors all over the board that are wanting to take money away from the credit funds, from the credit market. They're trying to get out, and the companies that hold these shares are not letting them do it. Another thing that's flying under the radar is these companies like BlackRock and Blackstone and stuff that carry all these credit funds from investors. They're taking that. They're taking all those bundles of credit investment, and they're sticking it in your 401ks. They're sticking it in your pensions. Which means if you have a 401k or a pension and the credit market collapses, say goodbye to your 401k, and your pension is gone because they put it on you. This is exactly what happened during 2008. It was just with the mortgage markets and the bonds, not the credit, the private credit. And that's what we're witnessing right now. And they're putting it on you. They're making you hold the bag. It's not just BlackRock, though. Blackstone's flagship private credit fund hit by record redemptions. Blackstone Inc. is allowing investors to redeem a record 7.9% of shares from the flagship private fund, the latest sign of unease in an industry that forced a wave of withdrawals. The firm is meeting the requests, which are equivalent to around $3.8 billion, by increasing the size of a previously announced tender offer to 7% of the fund's total shares, and by stepping in alongside employees. That's right. Blackstone, in order to allow investors to get their money out of the credit market, they're actually making employees invest in there to cover some of the transactions. Yikes. Alongside employees to offset the remaining 0.9%, according to a filing and a spokesperson. The fund has around $82 billion of total assets, including leverage, the filing shows. Redemption requests have picked up across several private credit funds in recent quarters, amid anxiety over the asset class and its exposure to software businesses as risk of disruption from AI. Those fears have added to long-running concerns over valuations and credit quality in the $1.8 trillion private credit market. That's right. $1.8 trillion would go down if the credit market collapses as well. Not just BlackRock, not just Blackstone. Blue Owl permanently halts redemptions at private credit fund aimed at retail investors. One company is a canary in the coal mine. Two companies is a canary that's whistling as it's in the cage. Three is a signal that that canary might not be alive anymore. Private credit group Blue Owl will permanently restrict investors from withdrawing their cash from its inaugural private retail debt fund, backtracking from an earlier plan to open to redemptions this quarter. The New York Investment Group on Wednesday said investors in Blue Owl Capital Core 2 would no longer be able to redeem their investments in quarterly intervals, but that company would instead return investors' capital in episodic payments as it sells down assets in coming quarters and years. So this company is saying, we'll get you your investment money back maybe a few years down the road when we're trying to sell these assets to pay you back. Blue Owl's announcement came as part of a $1.4 billion sale of credit assets across 3 of its funds, including $600 million for the retail credit fund. The sale amounts to 30% of its total assets, which is distributed to investors. This is an interesting development on the credit side of things, something, again, that's kind of going under the radar. People aren't necessarily talking about it. I still hold to the idea that this economy, the global economy, should have collapsed years ago, but it is literally by the hand of God holding it back because it's not time yet that it's still here. There's no way that the global economy right now would still be functioning if it wasn't for God allowing it to do so, because this thing should have collapsed over a decade ago. Should have just slammed from there. So I think in this situation, this is why we don't ever go over predictions and stuff when it comes to the economy, because again, it's just time and time again, it's wrong and wrong and wrong, because it's the economy, the global economy is no longer attached to reality. It hasn't been attached to reality for a long time. It is literally all based upon the supernatural holding back from God. And so that's nothing that we can speculate or predict or see a trend and go, well, I think it's going to go here, because everything is disconnected from what's really happening. And it's all based upon God. So we just need to hold on to that. We just need to keep that in mind. When we see the panic videos and stuff coming out regarding financial collapse and stuff like that, just remember, because they're not going to tell you that. Just remember that we're just waiting for God. We're just waiting for God. He's got it in control. He's holding it up right now. He's making sure that it's not happening until it's according to his time. And so we just keep that in mind, and don't get swallowed up in the whole crazy stuff when it comes to the financial thing, because you can't predict it. It's disconnected from reality. So I think that's important to remember on all of this. Let's keep it going. And we got federal court rejects Trump administration attempt to slow tariff refund process. Yeah, Trump administration's trying to slow the process down. Court said, nuh-uh. Federal court on Monday rejected the Trump administration's attempt to slow the process of refunding billions of dollars worth of tariffs the Supreme Court struck down as illegal last month. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit started the next phase for the refund process by sending it to a lower court to sort out. In a court filing Friday, Trump's Justice Department had urged the Federal Circuit to proceed cautiously and hold out for 90 days, but the judge said, nope. It's a nice little win, to be honest. That's kind of wanted to put it in there. Some people say, why don't you ever talk about good stuff? Well, here's something good. So, just wanted to throw that in there. Along with that, we have another case of nobody ever goes to jail. Another episode of Nobody Ever Goes to Jail. Trump Justice Department, under pressure from Trump, fails to build auto pen case against Biden. Prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington were unable to build a case, underscoring the department's increasing inability to follow through on the president's desire to indict his rivals. This is the Justice Department, after calls by President Trump to investigate the former President Biden, scrutinized whether Biden and his aides broke the law in using the auto pen to sign presidential documents, but was ultimately unable to move forward with making a case. The department's failure to build a criminal case against Biden and his aides in the latest example of its increasing inability to follow through on Trump's demands and bring indictments against those he wants to be criminally targeted. Some of those cases were rejected by grand juries, some were rejected by judges, and some, like the AutoPen case, were abandoned by prosecutors. So this thing didn't even get off the ground. They couldn't even build a case because they did not have enough evidence to actually bring anything to court. Because these people don't ever go to jail. They don't ever get, I mean, it's just one of those things where just nothing ever happens to these people. That's why we trust God and await for his timing and perfect righteous judgment, which all of these people will receive at the perfect time, which is God's timing. The AutoPen investigation was led by U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, which is run by longtime Trump ally Jeanine Pirro. The inquiry was quietly shelved in recent months, around the time that prosecutors under Ms. Pirro sought and failed to secure an indictment in a different case, one against 6 Democratic lawmakers who posted a video in the fall that enraged Trump by reminding active duty members of the military and intelligence communities that they were obliged to refuse to follow illegal orders. In that case, a grand jury refused to issue an indictment, a once incredibly rare action in the federal court system, but one that has become more common as the Trump administration pushes the limits of the criminal justice system. In both the AutoPen and lawmakers' video cases, veteran prosecutors were skeptical from the outset that there was anything close to sufficient evidence to justify criminal charges. You know, this is probably just gotta to burn the britches of those who spent all those years attacking Biden and then all of a sudden became a marshmallow cupcake when it came to calling out what Trump is doing. And the fact that the Trump administration can't even build a case on this to take out Biden. It's probably just has them so overheated because that's what they were hoping for and banking for. When I'm sitting here going, what'd you expect? 2 wings of the same bird. Both are puppets for the same puppet master. Did you really expect anything different? If you did, you're still caught up in the left-right paradigm. It's time to get out of there. It's time to ditch it. Oh, man. What's going on? All right, let's keep it going. We still got a lot to cover, and we're running out of time. How about this one? U.S. opposes IAEA board resolution condemning attacks on Ukraine's power grid. Now, these things, these little declarations and stuff that these people put out, these organizations like the UN and stuff, doesn't mean anything. But for us paying attention to the little details, this is worth paying attention to, because the United States joined Russia, China, and Niger. But Russia and China, the United States joined Russia and China and Niger on Thursday in opposing a resolution adopted by the UN Nuclear Watchdogs board denouncing attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure as a threat to nuclear safety. What does that mean? That means the United States, in another public showing, has backed away from Ukraine, has backed away from Europe, has backed away from the UN, and has aligned themselves with Russia and China, only adding more weight to the case that we look over here, that we don't go along with the narrative of the United States being at war with Russia and China. We go with the concept based upon facts and evidence and little things like this that tells us that the United States has aligned themselves with the very people that the world tells you they are against. That's why I wanted to bring this up. says the resolution passed by the International Atomic Energy Agency's 35-nation Board of Governors is the 7th on Ukraine since Russia invaded its neighbor 4 years ago. This is the first time the United States has opposed one. Again, these little declarations don't mean anything, but the public showing of who the United States is aligning with is worth paying attention to. While we continue supporting the IAEA's work in the country, we do not support the board's current consideration of an unnecessary resolution that does not help achieve peace between Ukraine and Russia, the United States said in a statement on the board before the vote. U.S. President Donald Trump has in the past year pressured Ukraine for a quick peace deal that could involve ceding land to Russia. Ukraine has ruled out giving up territory. Again, the United States is the one that's trying to get Ukraine to give up territory to Russia. So, again, significant. For those who have been around, you know we've covered a ton of information showing the connections between Trump and Russia and Putin and the Kremlin going way back to the 80s and all that. So go check that out if you have not seen those before. But yeah, this is no shock and just adds more weight to that conclusion. How about this one for all you Floridians? This Florida bill would create a CIA-style counterintelligence, counterterrorism unit. HB 945 would require FDLE to establish a unit at one of its regional operation centers. Listen up, Florida. The proposed bill in the Florida legislature would create a new statewide counterintelligence and counterterrorism unit within the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, giving the agency expanded authority to identify and respond to perceived threats across the state. This is also in line with another bill that just passed the House, the Florida House, that has to do with deeming any organization or anybody supporting an organization as a terrorist organization if it does not go along with the United States, if they deem it to be against the United States. So this is in line with that. This is House Bill 945 would require FDLE to establish the CIA-style unit at one of its regional operation centers and assign a team to each of the state's 7 regional domestic security task force. The bill said that the unit's mission would be to detect, identify, neutralize, and exploit. Oh man, whenever they use that word, exploit, what it defines as adversary intelligence entities. A category, here we go, a category that includes foreign governments, corporations, non-governmental organizations, insurgent groups, and any person who demonstrated actions, views, or opinions are a threat or are inimical to the interests of the state and the United States. If you're in Florida and you have a view or an opinion that the state of Florida identifies as being anti-America, they will come after you. It's the exact same thing as the NSPM 7 that Trump signed in earlier. For all you DeSantis fans, where's your great DeSantis now? Could it be that, I don't know, he's also part of the group? It says, under the proposal, the unit would gather intelligence, analyze... Here we go. Under the proposal, this unit would gather intelligence, analyze patterns of life, conduct arrests, and carry out direct action missions either independently or alongside other law enforcement teams. Analyze patterns of life. That means constant surveillance on people. The FDLE would be required to create an initial 10-person leadership team by July 1st, 2027, and expand the unit to at least 7 teams statewide with full staffing required by December 30th, 2033. The bill would take effect July 1st, 2026, if approved. It's amazing, and I said this the last time when this stuff started coming through, that there was only 3 states that I viewed as being the most free and I use that term loosely, but the most free of all the states in the United States. And that was Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, and all three have completely fallen. All three have completely fallen. Because this country has to go down. It has to. This is where we're at now. This is where we're at. Let's keep it going. Border Patrol tapped into the online advertising ecosystem to track people's movements. It's been a minute since we've talked about this. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but ICE and Border Patrol are still doing what they're doing here in the United States. Funny, you're not hearing about that anymore with all the stuff in the Middle East now, are you? Customs and Border Protection bought data from an online advertising ecosystem to track people's precise movements over time in a process that involves siphoning data from ordinary apps like video games, dating services, and fitness trackers, according to an internal Department of Homeland Security document obtained by 404 Media. The document shows in stark terms the power and potential risk of online advertising data and how it can be leveraged by government agencies for surveillance purposes. ICE also recently said in public procurement documents it was interested in sourcing more ad tech data for its investigations. And every time this comes up, I always recommend, if you guys don't have the Brave browser, get the Brave browser. Because the Brave browser has a built-in data blocker, built-in cookie blocker, and built-in ad blocker. And it's designed to literally stop them from collecting this data on you, and you can have it on your computer or your phone. So if you're not using Brave browser, make sure you guys get on it now, because it is pretty darn important, in my opinion. The document 404 Media obtained is the first time CBP has acknowledged the location data it bought came from the advertising industry. Specifically, CBP says the data was in part sourced via real-time bidding, or RTB. Whether an advertisement is displayed inside the app, a near-instantaneous bidding process happens with companies vying to have their adverts served to a certain demographic. A side effect of this is that surveillance firms or rogue advertising companies work on their behalf can observe this process and siphon information about mobile phones, including their locations. All of this is essentially visible to an ordinary phone user, but happens constantly. The sort of surveillance can happen through all sorts of innocuous seeming apps such as games, news apps, weather trackers, dating apps, and so on and so forth. Let's see. RTB sourced location data is recorded when an advertisement is served. The DHS document reads, the document is a privacy threshold analysis, or PTA, type of record DHS is required to complete when deploying or exploring new technology. So basically what this does is whenever you go to a website or whenever you log on to something and it has an ad there, there's a whole bunch of groups. That's why it's like Google Sense and stuff like that. They're all fighting for ad space. And what they do is they collect your data and then they can detail or they can give you certain detailed specific ads based on the information that they collect, the advertisement companies. And so what those advertisement companies can do is they can take that same data and they sell it backdoor to government agencies, allowing government agencies like Border Patrol or ICE to get that data on you. And they can use that data for location. They can use it for tracking what websites you've been to, your social media, everything like that. And that's what these things do. And these personalized advertisements that all these advertising groups do, that's why we've talked about it. And I know a lot of you have dealt with it too, is you can have your phone and you could be talking to a friend about something. You could be talking to them about toasters. And all of a sudden, the next website you go on, there's an advertisement for toasters. Is because it was listening to you, it was gathering your data, and it personalized an ad for you. So all that data that it collected, the conversation you were having, the location that you were at, and all these things gets sold to these people. And that's exactly what this is the Border Patrol is buying this information in order to track down people to arrest. It's exactly how it's happening. The document lays out how the online advertising industry gave birth to this sort of surveillance. Traditionally, marketers use cookies to track consumers' activity. When those grew less effective due to the rise of smartphones and apps in 2010, Apple and Google created advertising IDs, or ad IDs, that are assigned to each device. These are unique identifiers that, although they don't contain a person's phone number or name, still provide a way for online advertising industry to track devices. In essence, the ad ID acts as the digital glue between a person's device and their location data, allowing marketers or surveillance contractors, or even DHS, to attribute a set of movements to a specific device. From there, investigators can draw geofences to see all phones at a particular area over a period of time. Many smartphone location data tools then let officials see where else those devices went, potentially revealing their owners, where they live or work, or other sensitive locations. And that's how they're able to track down all those that they want to track down. It's because they're using those pesky little ads on websites and your phone to do it. Now we have this. We have this one. So a while back, we talked about there's a project being done by the Israeli government that was designed to create geofences around church buildings. And it was an Israeli government organization that created a shell company here in the United States. And they were building these giant geofences around churches and whatnot. So what you do is every time your phone crosses one of those geofences, it would know to send you pro-Israeli advertisements and videos and all that type of stuff, pop-ups and everything like that. And it's an entire thing that they built. Then we found out that Netanyahu met with a whole bunch of Israeli and American online social media influencers, had a giant meeting with these people. I showed some pictures and video and stuff like that. This was a while ago. And basically what they were doing is they were basically paying online influencers anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 per pro-Israel post on social media as part of their information propaganda war that was going on. Well, what we're getting now is all those influencers that were getting paid to post pro-Israel stuff aren't getting paid, and they're suing the Israeli government for not paying them for their work that they did. So claims in the millions. They were recruited for outreach at the height of the crisis and discovered that there was no one to pay them. Now, this website is lame. It keeps refreshing and throwing everything off. So I just went ahead and got screenshots of what I wanted to show you on this. So I hate websites that auto refresh. It just messes everything up. So it says the mess in the government's information system. By the way, this is translated from Hebrew, so the English might not be great. So just you gotta work with it because this is an Israeli Hebrew website. It says the mess in the government's information system is celebrating. The system is facing lawsuits from millions of suppliers who have not received payments. Alongside this, a police investigation is underway into the forgery of a signature by an employee of the Prime Minister's office. And this is the body that is supposed to conduct the campaign for Israel's image in the world during the time of war. It says, for example, the salary of explainer Alion Levy, remember that guy that I just showed on our last show where he was the one that basically blamed the Iranian school bombing on the United States? He's the former speaker of the Israeli government. That's this guy. The salary of explainer Alion Levy, which was 41,125 shekels, was initially paid by an external event production company, Intellect Production and Publishing Group, instead of directly from the state treasury. So basically, the Israeli government was paying their influencers through shell companies, not straight from the government. According to Levy, he first came to work voluntarily and was offered to work as an external consultant with an hourly rate of 250 shekels based on 165 monthly hours. Levy claimed that despite repeated requests, his status was never regulated in the contract and that the government system sought to pay him through a third party. Despite this, the information system owes Levy, he claims, with a period that has not yet been paid to him. But according to him, he gave up on even suing them. So they're not paying him for his pro-Israeli influence social media posts. How about this one? A case that was recently decided is the lawsuit of Nadav Yehud, a student who was employed by the Public Relations Department starting on October 7th for 4 months. Yehud claimed 38.9 thousand shekels, of which 34,000 shekels for 2 months of work between January and February of 2024, for which the ministry refused to pay him. The hearing of Yehud's lawsuit, which at the Tel Aviv Magistrate Court aroused unusual, again, it's translated, hang with me, took place on February 10th with interest and attracted senior officials in the Prime Minister's office. Moshik Aviv, former head of the Public Relations Department, the ministry's accountant Elon Schlesinger, and a representative of the legal bureau appeared for the discussion. All a part of the ruling, which was given after an off-the-record hearing. Judge Aaron Gelbard revealed that the state claimed that it was not possible to pay Yehud before investigating numerous and wide-ranging irregularities in related matters that are being clarified both in legal proceedings and in police investigation. At the end of the proceedings, the court ruled in Yehud's favor and ordered the state to pay his salary. So, to kind of narrow all that down, one of the people, a student that was employed in order to do their social media propaganda work, basically did all this work for many months, did not get paid, sued the government, and then the judge ruled in favor of him, claiming that his case was good enough for them to force the government to pay him. On top of that, the government said that they did not want to pay him because they have so many legal proceedings from other cases just like that one that they're trying to collect all this evidence to see what is actually going on. On top of that, among the budgetary items revealed in the lawsuit are salary expenses for Elion Levy and Nadav Yehud. In the Prime Minister's office defense, the state claimed that Yehud was generally employed by Intellect. It also becomes clear from a review of the claims that the company financed flights to The Hague, to Germany. So the company connected to the Israeli government for this influencer campaign was paying these influencers to travel to European countries like Germany, which were used for influencer activists who worked against pro-Palestinian demonstrations ahead of the hearing at the Hague court, according to sources familiar with the details of the flight. So this is stuff that, again, we've covered in the past. You're never going to hear this from any of the pro-Israel pastors or prophecy teachers. They don't cover stuff like this. They say that this is all false, even though we literally have a legal court case that says that it's true. Literally, the judge ruled in favor of it, and the government had to pay him for it. So it's true. This stuff is real. It's actually happening. And this is why we need to remember that it's not just Israel is doing it. The United States is doing it. Europe is doing it. Russia's doing it. China's doing it. All these countries have these gigantic propaganda networks that are designed to influence you. And they take the social media and they can flip-flop on whatever they want to as long as they're being told to do it. And their job is to make sure that they navigate society through all this stuff and to stay on track through the MAGA party, through all these different groups out there around the country or around the world. And that's what's going on. But this one's significant because this thing started right after the October 7th attacks. Almost like this whole thing was ready to go because the shell companies were ready. The list of influencers was ready. Everything was ready to go, that it literally started the day after the attack. And so that's more proof that they knew it was going to happen and they let it happen. And we've gone over all that stuff before. So we need to keep that in mind. We need to keep that in mind as we navigate all this crazy stuff happening around the world, that there's so much bad information that's designed literally to push you in certain directions. And so we need to keep that front and center as we have our heads on swivels and we're watching everything happening around us. All right. We just got a couple of tech things and then a couple of internet ID things, and we should be good to go. How about this one? Meta workers say that they're seeing disturbing things through users' smart glasses. In some videos, you can see someone going to the toilet or getting undressed. Again, we've reported on the fact that those automatic robot vacuum things, what are those called? I can't remember what the brand is. Somebody in the chat can remind me. But those take pictures and scan homes, and we've seen that there was pictures of certain people in the bathroom on the toilet getting posted online because of their little robots. Vacuum cleaners were taking pictures of them in those positions. Roombas. Thank you, Kim Gold. Appreciate that. Roombas. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Roombas. And so the glasses are doing the same thing. Meta's Ray-Ban AI glasses have shot up in popularity in recent years, selling over 7 million pairs in 2025 and a considerable jump over the 2 million it sold in 2023 and 2024 combined. Critics say enabling facial recognition in the glasses software could have dangerous implications, especially during the militarization of law enforcement and Meta's abysmal track record when it comes to ensuring the privacy of users. Again, we've confirmed that ICE is using these things for real-time facial recognition and data searches, so keep that in mind. And regardless of the wearer's intentions, much of the footage being recorded by the glasses is being sent to offshore contractors for data labeling, a widely used pre-processing step in training new AI models in which human contractors are asked to review and annotate footage. Meta contractors based in Nairobi, Kenya, told Swedish newspapers in a recent published joint investigation that they're being told to review highly sensitive and intimate data. In some videos, you can see someone going to the toilet or getting undressed. One contractor for a company called Sama said, "I don't think they know, because if they knew that they wouldn't be recording. I saw a video where a man puts the glasses on a bedside table and leaves the room," one data annotator told the newspaper. Shortly after, his wife comes in and changes her clothes. Other footage include imageries of people's bank card and other intimate stuff while they're wearing it, which I don't know why you're wearing that, doing that, but whatever. All being recorded, and people are watching it. You understand that it's somebody's private life you are looking at, but at the same time, you are just expected to carry out the work, the employee said. You are not supposed to question it. If you start asking questions, you are gone. So basically, you have to look at all this intimate detail and analyze it and do all these things. Otherwise, you'll be fired. Buried in Meta's AI terms of use, the company reserves the right to have the company review your interactions with AI, including the content of your conversations or messages to AI, and this review can be automated or by a human. So buried in the terms of use, they're basically saying, whatever you record and whatever you allow us to see, hear, or anything like that can be manually reviewed by a human. Worst of all, owners of Meta's AI glasses simply don't have the option of making use of the AI features without agreeing to share data shared with Meta's remote servers. And once the data is sent, it's already often too late. Once the material has been fed to the models, the user in practice loses control over how it's used. It's not just Meta using offshore data annotators in its country like Kenya, Colombia, and India to train their AI models. Last year, workers have had to put up with reviewing often gruesome crime scene images and even dead bodies. That's why I always say, if there's a camera or microphone, doesn't matter if it's turned off or not, it's always recording. Somebody's always watching. And this is the world that we live now. Sticking with tech, Japan Prime Minister Takahashi meets Palantir's Teal on Future Tech. So we got Japan's Prime Minister teaming up with Palantir. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takahashi met with Peter Thiel, co-founder and chairman of Palantir Technologies, for a courtesy call at the Prime Minister's office in Tokyo. The meeting lasted about 25 minutes, which they mainly exchanged views on the present situation and future potential of advanced technology fields in Japan and the United States. We exchanged our opinions about the current situation and future prospects of advanced technology fields in Japan and the United States, among other themes, said the Prime Minister. The meeting focused on a number of cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data analytics, machine learning, and digital infrastructure, which are the main areas of Palantir's expertise in creating platforms that combined AI and data analytics for government, defense agencies, financial institutions, and private enterprises. So again, we got another situation. We see what's happening with Palantir in the Middle East. They're the ones that literally said you need to attack, and then they're profiting off of the attack because they're providing the technology for it. And they're expanding even further, Palantir, by going into Japan now, building one giant network. There are no specific agreements, deals, or contracts that were announced at the meetup. Announced doesn't mean that they weren't talking and writing things up behind the scenes. It was more of a top level talk to continue the U.S.-Japan tech relationship, showing Japan's keen interest in deepening ties with major U.S. tech companies and the global competition in AI data-driven solutions. A lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, including Palantir getting another contract with the Department of Agriculture. But check this one out. Palantir just got millions to assign cubicles. The Trump-linked spy firm could be paid millions to help the Department of Agriculture with employee seat assignments and space utilization. There's hidden details in this contract. Palantir, the Trump-connected spy tech and AI firm, just scored a no-bid government contract potentially worth millions to help the Agricultural Department implement the White House's divisive Return to Office directive. Under the guise of national security, the highly sensitive task to be handled by the billion-dollar tech behemoth will include employee seat assignments and space utilization. Despite vague contract details, the project would potentially bring a workforce surveillance technology known as bossware to the federal workforce, despite concerns about its mental and physical toll on workers and potential for errors and discrimination. In light of the Trump administration war on public service workers, there's reason to fear that Palantir's return to office tool will be deployed to further surveil and intimidate the remaining federal workforce, said Paul Sun, State Policy Program Director at the National Employment Law Project. So basically what's going on with this is Palantir got a massive contract from the United States government for the Department of Agriculture, and in the contract, it says that they're there to help with seat assignments and to help with like a space utilization and making sure there's an effective workflow. But along the lines of that, in the small written detail, it has to do with bringing in a new system for all the employees there that is constant surveillance. It's always watching your computer screen. It tracks whatever you type, how fast you type, what you're searching for, how quickly you're putting reports together, what you're researching, everything. It tracks all that. And then it feeds it into an AI system that will automatically write up if the employee is being effective enough at their job. And if they're not, it sends a progress report warning to the boss saying this person is not working fast enough, or they're not spending enough time doing these things, or they're maybe searching for something that doesn't apply to the job that they're supposed to be doing. And so if the worker is not doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing fast enough, it sends it to the boss. The boss can then go and fire them and replace them. It's very similar to what you see in China when it comes to their work situation. If you're not doing things quick enough, fast enough, and effective enough, based upon the AI overlords, then you get canned. And Palantir just got a contract to put that into the Department of Agriculture. The new award for the latest purchase in a larger $300 million contract that the Agriculture Department and Palantir inked last year is part of a sweeping National Farm Security Directive with the Pentagon and the Department of Homeland Security. The $300 million contract will allow Palantir to conduct key security checks and expedite benefit processing for the eligible applicants, among other actions. The company has 2 other existing contracts with the Department of Agriculture signed before Trump's second term. The large outlay of funds to a private contractor comes at a time when the Trump administration has proposed sweeping cuts to food, housing, education, and low-income services. Man. Well, if it's not Palantir, it's Oracle. Oracle seals landmark CMS cloud deal, solidifying dominance in federal healthcare infrastructure. Pay attention to this one. You guys remember Stargate? All about putting together this gigantic database for healthcare, personalized vaccines, all of your information and everything. Well, it just got a little bit more closer because we know Larry Ellison was one of the main people involved with that. And they just got access to Medicare and Medicaid services. In a move that fundamentally reshapes the landscape of government technology, Oracle has officially secured a massive multi-billion-dollar contract with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Announced on February 11th, 2026, the deal tasks Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with the complete migration and management of mission-critical workloads that serve over 150 million Americans. If you are connected to Medicare or Medicaid, you are now going into Oracle's cloud-based system that will be running your entire healthcare file. The immediate implications are profound for both the public sector and the technology market. By moving the digital backbone of the world's largest health insurer, including claims education, eligibility verification, and fraud detection to OCI, the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, the federal government is signaling a departure from its historical reliance on legacy on-premise systems and early cloud incumbents. The contract, which comes after years of strategic positioning by Oracle, outlines a comprehensive 36-month. So this is going to be quick. 36 months is very quick for a system like this. So they want to move this fast. Outlines a comprehensive 36-month modernization roadmap. Under the terms of the agreement, Oracle will mitigate the vast data repositories of Medicare, Medicaid, Children's Health Insurance Program, and the Affordable Care Act. So if you're on Medicaid, you're on Medicare, you have a kid in the Children's Health Insurance Program, or you're a part of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, you're going in this system. The first wave of eligibility and verification system is slated to go live on OCI by late 2026, this year, with the full suite of education services following shortly thereafter. This transition is not merely a lift and shift operation. It involves rebuilding the agency's logic within the Oracle Autonomous Database. Autonomous AI. This is definitely connected to the Stargate system. And leveraging OCI's FedRAMP high security environment to ensure data integrity and privacy. Oracle emerges as the clear victor in this scenario, with CMS contract serving a primary catalyst for a record-breaking surge in its remaining performance obligations. As of February 2026, Oracle's RPO has ballooned to a staggering $523 billion, a 359% year-over-year increase that has stunned Wall Street. This influx of contracted, non-cancelable revenue provides Oracle with an unprecedented level of long-term financial viability, supporting the company's aggressive goal of reaching $144 billion in annual cloud revenue by the end of the decade. So this basically makes Oracle like the biggest company in the world, practically. And it's going to have access to all of your health data on top of it. Do you guys enjoy living in the future? Do you guys enjoy living in the future and seeing everything happening right now? The technology that's coming right now? If we zoom out from what we're watching right now, just kind of pause, put everything on pause, and just kind of like zoom out at the world right now. And we are seeing all at the same time. We don't see this too often. We'll see like one kind of move forward and then another one staggering, and then they'll move forward. The other one kind of staggers and everything like that. But right now we are witnessing a geopolitical power shift, a gigantic consolidation of AI technology, and the preparation for a complete financial overhaul, global financial overhaul, all actually moving forward at the exact same time right now. Now, some people would go, but we've been watching that for years. We really haven't. Like I said, one will kind of move forward, take some advances. The other one kind of pauses or steps back, and then one will move forward, and then the other one kind of just pauses and step back, and we kind of see that. But right now, this moment, we're seeing all three move forward at the exact same time. That's significant. That's a very significant thing right now. Now, that doesn't mean that we might hit a spot and maybe something stalls, and then another one kind of stalls, and then another one keeps going forward. That doesn't mean we might not see something slow down here. But at this very moment, we're literally watching all three go forward at the same time. It's kind of interesting if you view it from that perspective. So I just kind of wanted to throw that at you. All right, let's keep it going. Hang with me, y'all. I told you, got a lot of stuff we're covering. Amazon cloud facilities in UAE and Bahrain hit by drone strikes. Abu Dhabi warehouse shut amid Iran-Israel-US war. And so Amazon cloud data centers, I think 3 of them, got obliterated over there in the Middle East. To kind of shut down Amazon all over in that region, plus caused some issues over here in the United States with some things happening, like the Amazon website went down and a few other things. It's all because data centers over there got blown up. Amazon's cloud unit AWS said on Monday that drone strikes impacted its facilities in the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain amid the Middle East conflict. This comes hours after the company cloud computing facilities in the Middle East faced power and connectivity issues after unidentified objects struck its data center in the UAE. This is not only an impact for Amazon is facing due to the war in Iran, but impact on the Gulf countries. Amazon has closed its fulfillment center in Abu Dhabi and suspended deliveries across the region as the e-commerce giant responds to the escalating instability in the Middle East, which has created ripples across the region and the world, according to the new report. So looks like that's how quick things can shift, at least at this moment in time. Take out a couple of data centers and things start going haywire. With that, Anthropic hits back after U.S. military labels it a supply chain risk. United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth directed the Pentagon to designate Anthropic as a supply chain risk on Friday, sending shockwaves through Silicon Valley and leaving many companies scrambling to understand whether they can keep using one of the industry's most popular AI models. So what does being designated a supply chain risk mean? Any company that works with or is contracted through the U.S. government cannot use anything from Anthropic. If a company has a contract with the U.S. government, they use Anthropic tools, whether it's an AI system or some other tool that they offer, that company has to get rid of anything Anthropic or they will lose the contract with the U.S. government. That's what that means. So it's basically a way for the U.S. government to destroy a company. If it's a large enough, widespread company, it's a good way. It's how they can completely annihilate a company. Effective immediately, no contractor, supplier, or partner that does business with the United States military can conduct any commercial activity with Anthropic, Hegseth wrote. The designation comes after weeks of tense negotiations between the Pentagon and Anthropic over how the U.S. military could use the startup's AI model. In a blog post this week, Anthropic argued its contracts with the Pentagon would not allow for its technology to be used for mass domestic surveillance of Americans or fully autonomous weapons. The Pentagon asked that Anthropic agree to let the U.S. military supply its AI to all lawful uses with no specific exceptions. So basically, the details that we know is and some people are like praising Anthropic as being some type of great they're not. Anthropic basically said, we don't want you to use our technology to use to make it use or to use it in mass domestic surveillance or in autonomous weapons unless there's a human involved. That's where the thing kind of lost for those who paid attention to this. That's kind of the important detail that got lost in it. Anthropic says, we don't want you doing these two things unless there's a human involved with it. Then we're okay with it. The government basically said, we don't want you to tell us how to use your technology. Just give it to us. We'll pay you. And that's it. And that's basically the situation. So Anthropic is not some great company that's standing up against mass surveillance or autonomous weapons. They just said, no, you can use it for that as long as there's a person involved. The government says, don't tell us how to use the technology. Supply chain risk designation allows, we kind of went over that already. Anthropic responded in another blog post on Friday evening saying it would challenge any supply risk designation in court and that such a designation would set a dangerous precedent for any American company that negotiates with the government. Hegseth has implied that this designation would restrict anyone who does business with the military from doing business with Anthropic. The secretary does not have the statutory authority to back up his statement, the company wrote. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And so this is another reason why Anthropic is not some great group like some people are making him out to be. Anthropic made pitch in drone swarm contest during Pentagon feud. Anthropic was among the artificial intelligence companies that submitted a proposal earlier this year to compete in a $100 million Pentagon prize challenge to produce technology for voice-controlled autonomous drone swarming. Yeah. The company made the submission during the fraught negotiations with the Defense Department over Anthropic's red lines for how its technology was to be used by the military. The role that the AI could play in efforts to develop so-called killer robots that can select and fire at targets without human involvement is at the heart of a high-stakes bust-up. Executives at the $380 billion company have repeatedly insisted that they support the extensive use of lawful use of AI in combat, short only of mass domestic surveillance and fully autonomous weapons. Anthropic didn't think developing the technology would cross the red line. Think about that, guys. They put in an investment to allow a human to voice control a drone swarm to go and attack a target. And Anthropic thought that that didn't cross the red line. Although the effort could ultimately create lethal drone swarms, a human would still be able to monitor and stop the system if necessary. And that's what they care about. It says, we don't care if you use it to go and kill mass amounts of people or watch a whole bunch of domestic people, as long as there's somebody involved with it. Anthropic's submission focused on using its Claude AI tool to translate a commander's intent into digital instructions and a coordinated fleet of drones, according to the person. It didn't use AI for autonomous targeting or weapons decision, the person said. And Anthropic didn't win that, of course, and OpenAI and xAI and another contractor won that as well. What's interesting, though, is U.S. forces used Cloud, Anthropic's AI model, in Iran strikes for intelligence, targeting even after Trump's ban. Trump had directed all federal agencies to immediately cease their use of artificial intelligence products developed by Anthropic, including the Claude model. Only hours after President Donald Trump announced that federal agencies should sever all ties with Anthropic and discontinue its use of AI systems, the U.S. military reportedly continued deploying the company's Claude model in active operations against Iran. Claude was used during the large-scale joint U.S.-Israel bombardment that began on Saturday, underscoring how deeply embedded advanced AI tools have become within the U.S. defense workflows. So, even after the Department of Defense said, we're not using Anthropic anymore, and other companies working with us have to not use them, they literally used Anthropic's chatbot to target enemies and to gather intelligence. According to recent reports, military commands relied on cloud for intelligence analysis, support and target selection, and battlefield simulations linked to the strikes. In a Friday Truth Social post issued just hours after the reported start of the U.S.-Israel military campaign against Iran, Trump directed all federal agencies to immediately cease their use of artificial intelligence products developed by Anthropic, including the Claude model. Talk about being a hypocrite. Talk about being a hypocrite. In the wake of the rupture, however, OpenAI has moved quickly to fill the gap. Chief Executive Sam Altman said that the company reached an agreement with the Pentagon to deploy its tools, including ChatGPT, within the military's classified network infrastructure. So basically, OpenAI is now replacing Anthropic in the military network. Last month, Elon Musk's company xAI signed an agreement enabling its Grok models to operate within secure U.S. military environments. The deal aligns Grok and the Defense Department's standard terms, permitting use of the model for only lawful purposes and creating a formal pathway for deployment upon unclassified systems. So basically, Anthropic is the only company, AI company, that had access to the Pentagon's and the military's classified networks. These are not the ones that, are open access for all of the military and Pentagon employees to use. These are the ones behind the scenes that run classified documents, intelligence analysis, and so on and so forth. You have to have special access to that data. And Anthropic is the one that had that access. Well, basically, because of what happened, they got kicked out. OpenAI is coming in, taking that, and then xAI also has access to that detail as well. So that's what's going on with that. It shouldn't surprise anybody that the reason why OpenAI got access to that is because OpenAI's president is a Trump mega donor. Greg Brockman said that he started getting involved politically in 2025. How convenient. How convenient is that? OpenAI's co-founder and longtime president Greg Brockman didn't just make a run-of-the-mill donation to the main pro-Trump super PAC. Together, he and his wife Anna's September 2025 donations equaled the largest of them all, totaling $25 million to MAGA Inc. Per a recent filing. The Brockmans' donations made up nearly 1/4 of the 6-month fundraising cycle. So what happens when Anthropic gets kicked out? They select OpenAI to come in and get classified network positioning because the main dude is a major Trump backer. It's the latest in a string of examples of tech executives cozying up the President Trump administration, happening at the administration pushes to aggressively back the AI industry and defying state-level regulation that companies like OpenAI have largely opposed. Now, it talks about there's a pro-AI super PAC called Leading the Future. I'm looking into that PAC a little bit further because there's actually a lot of pretty interesting nuggets in that. So hopefully I'll be able to talk to you guys about that further. But I think it'll give us a little bit more in-depth information regarding the connection between the Trump administration, big tech AI groups, and how they're trying to squash AI regulation. And there's a lot of interesting details. On top of that, Sam Altman reportedly tells staff OpenAI wants another classified contract with NATO. So immediately following his Pentagon contract, he wants to get involved with NATO now. Multiple news outlets got a peek at transcripts from an OpenAI all-hands-on meeting Tuesday in which CEO Sam Altman sought to soothe his apparently agitated employees in the wake of the company's fatefully timed contract with the Pentagon. But a standout passage in the Wall Street Journal's write-up on this meeting says OpenAI is actually going back for seconds. Altman apparently told his staff that OpenAI is looking at a contract to deploy on all North Atlantic Treaty Organization classified networks. To be clear, clearance just used to be on NATO's classified networks, is already an apparently lucrative trophy. Apple proudly announced that it received an approval from NATO just last month, saying iPhones and iPads can now be used for classified NATO purposes, a first for any consumer device, apparently. So OpenAI is getting onto the classified network in the Pentagon. And then after he talks to his employees and says that, he's worried about what's going on with AI, he immediately turns around and is trying to get onto the classified network of NATO. Basically, he's two-faced liar and trying to do everything that he can. And currently, Apple has NATO approval to be a part of the classified NATO network, which, again, it's just going to show that these tech companies really do have so much more power over these groups. And if they did not have these tech groups available to them, they wouldn't be able to do half of the things that they're actually doing. It says OpenAI's freshly inked Pentagon contract does more or less the reverse of this, grants permission for the Department of Defense to use OpenAI's technology freely and without OpenAI getting to make operational decisions. According to CNBC's reading of the meeting transcript, the New York Times describes it as a deal to provide artificial intelligence technologies for the Defense Department's classified systems. And keep in mind, the Pentagon, Palantir also has a deal with NATO, not on their classified networks, but they're also a part of the military structure of NATO as well. So they're heavily involved with that. All right. Since we're running out of time, we'll just finish up with this one. I'll save the other stuff for Tuesday. It says Trump gathers Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, and xAI to sign ratepayer protection pledge for AI data centers. So during Trump's 2024 campaign, there was a lot of talk about what he was trying to do when it came to his Manhattan Project, not the Manhattan Projects, the thing in history, but no, the Manhattan Project was his own AI and technology policy that was written up by a couple of people from the Heritage Foundation who did Project 2025 on how to navigate towards the pro-technology, surveillance, pro-AI side of things and move forward with those projects. And one of those things, and we talked about it a lot during that period of time during the campaigning, was he made mention quickly, but he did mention it. He talked about how he wanted to build a second power grid just for tech companies and data centers. Do you guys remember that? I know a lot of you guys were there when we talked about it. But he basically said he wanted to build a second power grid. So it's not connected to the current power grid that we have, but it's a secondary one built just for the tech companies and data centers. And here we are, because that's what this is. President Trump convened top AI and tech executives at the White House to sign the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, committing companies to build or buy their own power and cover all infrastructure costs for AI data centers without passing expenses to consumers. And here it is. And here it is, exactly as we called it. It says, in a landmark development for the artificial intelligence sector and national energy policy, Trump convened the chief executives of the world's most influential technology companies at the White House this week. The summit concluded with the decisive agreement known as the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, a commitment poised to fundamentally reshape how the next generation of AI infrastructure is powered and financed. Gathering within the Roosevelt Room were leaders from Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, and xAI. These 7 entities, collectively representing the vanguard of the AI revolution — you'll notice how Anthropic is not there — agreed to a unified set of principles designed to insulate American households and small businesses from the surging energy demands of hyperscale computing. The pledge explicitly mandates that these corporations must build or buy their own power generation capacity and cover 100% of the associated transmission infrastructure costs for AI data centers, ensuring that these expenses are not passed to utility ratepayers. That includes energy additionality. Tech companies must bring new power generation sources online to match their consumption rather than depleting existing grid capacity. Infrastructure liability. All costs related to grid upgrades, substations, and transmission lines required to serve these facilities must be borne entirely by the tech companies. And so first things first on this, it's a pledge. So this is not a law. This is not an order. This is nothing like that. This is literally a group of these guys coming together and saying, we will do this. So that's the first thing to pay attention to. So this is not something that's going to force them to do it. So keep that in mind. But secondly, this is right in line with what Trump wanted to do with building a secondary grid. And so a lot of the questions we receive or we have, then we talked about and so on and so forth, is what happens if there's a giant grid down situation, all the power goes out. What about all these data centers that they just built? Well, if they build a secondary grid just for those, they can pull the plug on the main grid. All of that stuff still keeps running. And the only people that are without power are us. Is us. So that makes sense why they would build their own secondary grid if that's something that they're planning on doing. So we'll keep an eye on that. I have a couple other things, but like I said, I'll save it till Tuesday because we're running out of time. We're over time as it is. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, guys. A lot of repercussions that are happening with the Middle East situation. There's a lot of ways that it could escalate further from here. There's a lot of transition situations happening over there. It seems to be expanding at this point. It's not diminishing. It's expanding currently right now. Plus, under the cover of that, we still got movement happening with Venezuela. We still have movement happening with Cuba. Still movement happening with building this technate. Hegseth said that it's happening. We got issues happening with the private credit market and the whole financial situation. We got advancement with technology. Oracle, Advanced Stargate just took over the whole Medicare system and everything. I mean, it's just, everything is just going crazy right now. So I'm already losing my voice. I don't know if you guys can tell, but this has been a long week. There's been a lot of information. I'm doing my absolute best to try and get that all for you guys. So I hope it's helping you guys. I hope that you guys are staying up to date through all this. Yeah. So, but we always end with the most important part with all of this, of course, is the gospel of Jesus Christ. None of this knowledge means anything. None of this information means anything if we don't have our hope and our salvation and our soul in the hands of Jesus Christ. And so if you're somebody who's watching that's still sticking around through this crazy long episode and you don't have your life in the hands of Christ, now is the time to do it. Today is the day. Don't wait because things are moving very fast. We have no idea when things will explode. We have no idea when the Lord will return. We don't have any of those things. We just trust in our Lord and Savior. And His gospel is as simple as ABC. A is you admit that you're a sinner. The act of repentance, metanoia, changing a mind, turning from self to Christ, is what allows true belief in Jesus Christ, because it's through this repentance, through this recognition that we are sinful and need a Savior, that allows us to truly believe and put our faith in the Savior, Jesus Christ. And so it's through repentance that allows true belief in Jesus Christ. We believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God, that He came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only, and He lived the perfect, sinless life, which means He was the only one, spotless and blameless, the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world upon His shoulders to the cross, where He took our place upon that cross, where He was crucified and He died. But because there's power in the blood of Jesus Christ, He defeated death and rose again on the third day. For all who believe in Him shall not perish, but live forever in His presence and in His glory. When we place our faith in Christ, when we place our belief in Christ, we place our faith in Christ Jesus, in His death, burial, and resurrection, in His spilled blood, and in His finished tetelestai, finished work upon the cross. When we place our faith in there, we receive salvation that only He can give as a free gift. And C, as we call upon the Lord, when we receive salvation, we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit that allows us the ability to speak with our Heavenly Father at any moment of any day. So much so that He desires to hear from us nonstop, to never cease praying. And we say, Lord God, thank you for allowing us to be in these times right now, watching the craziness around the world that we know are foreshadows and stepping stones to the coming prophecy that your scripture tells us is coming what appears to be soon. Either way, you called us to be watchmen and to pay attention so we're not caught off guard, that we are prepared and equipped with the knowledge in order to share the gospel of your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, give us the ability to see through the deceit and the deception. Give us the ability to cancel out the noise and to be aware of what is true and what is not. You have warned us repeatedly about the deceptions of these times. Give us the ability to see through them so that we can become the best watchmen that you have commanded us to be. Lord, give us the boldness to speak the name of Jesus, to share the gospel of Jesus in the darkest and the brutalest of places. And we ask, Lord Jesus, please come soon. Maranatha, in your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. How are we on questions? We don't have that many questions. Let's see if we can rapid fire through these real quick, guys. See what we can do, as long as there's not crazy in-depth stuff. Right here, Edward McKelvey question, what's the deal with Anthropic? Just covered it. So there we go. See, that's how quick we are. Edward, if you're still around, we just covered it. That should answer your question. Let's see here. Average Joe. Average Joe's Gym. Did you play dodgeball? Sorry. Only some people know that. Get that reference. If the military capabilities of Iran have been decimated, how are they threatening the shipping? And doesn't it seem like the Strait of Hormuz would be a primary concern? Yeah, so the whole idea that Iran has their military capabilities have been destroyed, false news. It's false. It's propaganda. It's Western and Israeli media trying to prop up what they're doing. There's evidence that says that's not true, and they still have that Strait of Hormuz locked down. Doesn't it seem like the Strait of Hormuz would be the primary concern? I'm guessing you mean for like the United States, like opening it back up. Not unless they're trying to do oil manipulation. Not unless they're getting hammered so bad that they don't have the ability to open it back up and to make sure that they can keep it open, or not if their whole target is to go in and try and control the oil sector of things. There's many factors for why the United States and Israel wouldn't want it open. We don't necessarily know exactly why that is, though. But so yeah, Iran's military capabilities have not been decimated. They're still doing what they're doing, and we don't exactly know why the United States and Israel hasn't opened up that strait. So, but there's many factors of why they would want it closed and why it benefits them personally in this situation. Country Darling question, since you showed us about the rebuilding of literal Babylon, do you have any thoughts about how the war could affect those efforts? I got to be honest, that is not something I've necessarily put a lot of time and thought into at this moment in time. Right now, I'm just kind of keeping tabs on something, but it's something that I'll try and put a little thought into this coming week, and I'll see if I can give you something on that. So Country Darling asked that question again on another episode, and I'll let you know if I spend a little time on that. That's something that I want to actually kind of think about and kind of look at stuff. So I'll let you know. Let's see here. Andrew Turner question, are we still seeing developments previously discussed with the U.S., Russia, India, China, Japan, the C5, Core 5 situation? Well, we know the U.S. and Russia and China and now India, because of what's happening right now, they're moving forward together pretty well right now. They're still working together and gaining more power and taking more control of their sectors and whatnot. So that's still there. The Japan one's interesting because Japan and China, publicly at least, don't care for each other, and it's not getting any better, at least publicly. Japan's relationship with India is growing significantly through all this right now, though, which is interesting. So I would say that it is neither extinguished nor moving forward together in that, from at least what we can see. So I would kind of say it's still alive, but not necessarily kicking, if that makes sense. But that doesn't mean that it's stopped, and that doesn't mean that it may not shift or change. Either way, we do know the three big players of the United States and Russia and China are still doing very well. So I think that's the important thing to watch. And last one, Carol Lamb, do you think this war causes the global economy to crack through the oil crisis? They need to demolish the current system. I don't think it's going to be oil that will crack the financial system. And right now it looks more like it's the credit system that's the problem. So I don't think this oil thing will cause the financial crash. It might play a part in it, but I don't think it's the reason. It sure looks like it's the private credit that's the serious problem with all of this. The oil situation is definitely causing a lot more other issues, specifically with shipping, food, gas prices, and all that. So, yeah, it seems more like the private credit that's the issue. All right, guys, that's all the questions we got. So let's end it here. Usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, certainly appreciate it. Also follow along on Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be backup live streaming over on Rumble. So make sure you guys follow over there if you have that available. Or if you have Telegram, follow over there as well. Post things I can't necessarily put in video format. So if you have that, follow there. If not, no worries. Just make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. It's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything happening around the world. Not around the world, but around this channel. And we talk about things around the world, so we get there. But yeah, you'll find the latest podcasts and live streams, announcement page, free book to download, and all that type of jazz. So bookmark that website. And last but not least, if you guys would like to support this channel and what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and GiveSendGo. This channel is not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. It runs solely off of your guys' generous donations. We don't do paywalls or subscriptions or memberships. We don't do any of that type of stuff. It runs off of your guys' generous hearts. So thank you guys for your support. Thank you for your donations and your prayers and keeping this going. Certainly appreciate it. And yeah, I thank the Lord for all of you guys. So thank you. With that, change your clocks. Get your heathenic booties to church tomorrow. And yeah, Lord doesn't come back by Tuesday. Same time, same place. I'll get you guys right back here. Peace out. Maranatha.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.